A private equity tycoon in Haicheng publicly seeks to find his life-saving benefactor in the media. The clue is a safety lock pendant. It looks exactly like the one hanging around my neck. My mom sneaked into my room in the middle of the night and swapped mine for my sister's safety lock pendant. I pretended not to notice. My sister's is the genuine one, worth 6-8 million. Mine is a fake, worth nothing. Why would I make a fuss? In my past life, I did speak up, and my mother backed off, but when I went to meet the big shot, my mother showed up with my sister and accused me of swapping things out behind everyone's back. I was condemned by everyone and nearly got run over by a crazed fan. I worked tirelessly and finally cleared my name. Just when I thought the big shot had a special place in his heart for me, I found out he only wanted to use my body to bring his beloved first love back to life. So I pretended to be possessed by his first love and swindled him out of all his money, although I lived in luxury and fine clothing until I died of old age. I was hunted by the big shot for my entire life. It was not a very comfortable life. In this life, having 6-8 million to live a comfortable life is pretty nice too. My older sister, Yun Chining, and I are twins, but I like working 9 to 5 and hate overtime, so I kept hanging around in my mom's belly, refusing to come out until 9 o'clock. When the sky was already bright, I was a full 6 hours later than my sister, a fortune teller said. My sister was a lucky star who could bring prosperity to the whole family, and I was a disaster star, one who would only bring bad luck to my family. So after I was born, I was dumped at my grandmother's house in the old town, while my older sister was taken by our parents to the city to live in a new apartment. When I was little, my parents told me they didn't have the energy to raise 2 children at the same time. When we grew up, they said they needed to leave a room for my sister as a practice room. In short, there was never a place for me in the city home. I never spent a single day living there. My name, Yun Shuyao, sounds literary and refined, but in fact it means being distanced until there is no news at all. They just feared that once I grew a brain, I'd pick a fight with them, so they changed the character Shu to make everything look peaceful. After all, the Yun family claims to be a house of scholars. Putting on such a show isn't just a habit, it's something they do with ease. When my older sister and I graduated from college, Grandma gave each of us a black jade piece pendant wrapped in gold as a graduation gift. On the surface, the only difference between our piece pendants was a slight variation in the gold wrapping. My sister's had symmetrical leaves, while mine had an extra vertical leaf in the center of the symmetrical leaves. Grandma said mine looked more elegant and luxurious, but I overheard her telling my sister in private that my sister's was the real thing. An imperial court made piece worth 6-8 million yuan. It was a family treasure passed down through the Yin family for many generations. Mine, on the other hand, was just a fake, worthless. It was specially custom-made just to make things seem fair and fool me. I was furious, but I didn't storm out to argue on the spot, because growing up had taught me that even if I made a scene, they would only turn around and blame me for being immature. They'd say they had already been considerate of my feelings and even specially had a fake made for me. It was me who didn't appreciate it and failed to understand their good intentions in treating everyone fairly. Compensation, that was pure wishful thinking. I walked out of the old mansion alone, stewing in silence to clear my head. All the way, I was thinking about how to quietly make the 6-8 million yuan piece pendant mine. The old house was in the ancient town, and there wasn't much of anyone out at night, making it perfect for a brisk stroll, but not long. After I set off, I nearly tripped. Looking back, I saw that what had tripped me was a man's leg. The man seemed drunk, sitting there with his back against the wall. His excessively long legs were really in the way. After tripping me, the man not only showed no apology at all, but instead looked at me with bright, sparkling eyes. It was as if I were some clueless sugar daddy, here to rescue him from a male brothel. Only later did I learn that, in his eyes, I really was a sucker. A charlatan had given him a time and place and told him to sit there and wait. He said that the first person to bump into him would be the best vessel to revive his white moonlight. How was I supposed to know what devious scheme he was plotting? I was already seething, so I took him for a punching bag and rushed up to kick him twice. I even scolded him. A good dog doesn't block the road. Yeah, that's just how fierce I am. Who told me I was left in this ancient town since childhood, growing up unloved by both my father and mother? If I wasn't a little fierce, both adults and kids would bully me. Ever since I was 3, the people in the ancient town would shut their doors as soon as they saw me. The man was clearly a stranger. He almost made me fall flat on my face, so kicking him twice was already being polite. Seeing him look at me with such a pitiful expression, I had a pang of conscience and tossed him the fake Pingon Ko. This is your compensation, where even now, a worthless trinket like that is only fit to be used to brush off someone so clueless. But I didn't expect him to keep chasing after me, wanting my contact information. I was annoyed that he didn't know when to stop, so I simply kicked him into the river. The Pingon Ko landed by the riverbank. My family's hypocritical genes kicked in, and I didn't want to leave evidence that would let anyone know I'd done something bad. So I picked up the Pingon Ko and hung it back around my neck. Besides, it was dark and there was no one around. I turned and left without looking back. Unexpectedly, that very night the media was flooded with news that Jiangsu, the private equity magnate of Haiqing, was looking for his life-saving benefactor. The clue was an AI-retouched safety charm. It was exactly the same as the one hanging around my neck. I saw this news before going to bed. At the time, I thought he was trying to bait me into showing up so he could get revenge on me, but he soon explained on his personal account that it was because he had been rescued from the water in time, which neutralized the effects of the drug in his body. He genuinely wanted to thank me. Between the lines, he portrayed me as a dashing, heroic female knight-errant. Anyone could tell he had fallen for me at first sight. I wasn't exactly moved, but thinking that I could borrow his influence to rile up those biased people in the Yun family was pretty satisfying too. If he really was interested in me, then asking him to teach me about investing definitely wouldn't be something he'd refuse. Once I made more than 8 million in returns on my own. Wouldn't that be even more satisfying than stealing my sister's peace knot? I made up my mind to meet him the next day, but in the middle of the night, my biological mother, who was supposed to have gone back to the home in the city, showed up in my room. She secretly swapped out my peace knot. She had always wanted to marry my sister into a wealthy family, but unfortunately, for 18 generations, our ancestors hadn't even come close to the upper class. As for this chance with Jiangsu, she would never let it slip away. She would rather give me the 8 million yuan piece not than seize this so-called chance to marry into a rich family for my sister. Even though it was far from anything concrete, I jumped up on the spot and got into an argument with her. Since she couldn't beat me in a fight or out-talk me, she brainwashed me, saying my sister was better suited to marry into a wealthy family. I would only waste the opportunity for nothing. She also said a lot about the benefits I would get if my sister married into a rich family. I didn't believe a single word of it and kicked her straight out. The next day, I got up before dawn in secret and hurried to the place in the city where Jiangsu had said he would wait for me to meet him. As a result, my mom stormed out with my sister and, at the top of her lungs, accused me of pulling a bait-and switch. She even called a large group of media people over to witness it. The most moving thing she said was, "I'm her biological mother. If she hadn't gone too far, how could I bear to make her lose face?" She was so heartfelt that anyone would see her as a mother disappointed in her daughter's lack of promise. There was absolutely no way she would frame her younger daughter just to promote her older one. Jiangsu was stunned too when he looked at my face, which was exactly the same as my sister's. I was quickly mocked by everyone. My sister is a third-rate celebrity, so she has her fair share of brainless fans. One of those brainless fans nearly ran me over with their car. In the end, it took a great deal of effort for me to find evidence to prove my innocence. The ones being mocked became my mother and my sister. Jiangsu treated me exceptionally well, so well that he was utterly obedient. Just when I thought he was genuinely smitten with me and was considering whether to accept him, I accidentally discovered that what he had always liked was merely my physical shell, so he could resurrect his deceased white moonlight. I was furious and planned to give him a sterilizing poison, but then I thought about how, after a brief moment of satisfaction, there would be a long stretch of sewing machine days ahead, so I gave up. Later, I turned the tables and pretended to be his resurrected white moonlight. I coaxed him into transferring all his assets into my name. Then, amid the relentless pursuit and murderous blade flashes, I lived in luxury for the rest of my life. Given a second chance, I chose to take the 8 million yuan and live a free life with a clear conscience. So when I watched my mom swap out my safety amulet right in front of me, I no longer said a word. To prevent theft, our old family house also has latch locks installed on the outside of the windows, and they're all secured whenever no one is home overnight. After my mom took away my peace knot, she locked all my doors and windows from the outside. I found it rather amusing. Did she really think I could be locked in? As soon as my mom left, I immediately got up, packed my ID, put on the real peace knot, pried up the roof tiles, and climbed out. I was completely familiar with the drill. Knowing my mom, swapping the real peace knot back to me was only a stopgap measure, so I wouldn't have to rush over early tomorrow morning to ruin my sister's good thing. Once my sister met Jiangsu, my mother would definitely turn around and order a counterfeit to swap out the genuine one I had in my hands. She was betting that before she replaced it with the fake, I wouldn't notice that the peace buckle was missing one leaf. By then, my sister would successfully latch onto Jiangsu, and she'd also be able to get the genuine one back in time. It really was as if all the good things were landing in their laps. Of course I had to make her plan come to nothing. I got ahead of her and had a counterfeit made, then sent the genuine one to the auction house. After I'd been busy all day and returned to the old house wearing the fake, I saw that the locks on my doors and windows were still hanging there. In other words, my grandma didn't give a damn about whether I lived or died all day long. In fact, I didn't even see her at home. I had no idea where she had gone to hide with my mom. I was happy to have some peace and quiet, so I climbed back into the room through the roof at a leisurely pace and went back to bed to keep sleeping. It was already completely dark when I finally heard the sound of the lock opening. My mom came in switched on the light, saw me sitting on the bed glaring at her, and immediately struck first. "Why are you glaring at me? Your grandma's gone senile and forgot that you'd already graduated from college and should be sleeping at home. She locked the door early this morning and went to Putua Mountain to worship Buddha. She won't be back until tomorrow. Just now she suddenly remembered she might have locked you in the house. So she called and asked me to come check. I came kindly to open the door for you. So why do you look like you want to eat me alive? If you want to blame someone, blame your grandma. Her logic is flawless, and her righteous attitude is off the charts. I really think the Oscars owe her a little golden statue. If not an acting award, then it should be a screenwriting award. Seeing that I didn't argue with her, she probably thought I'd fallen for her lie." She let out a satisfied sigh, and her tone softened as well. "You child, honestly, you were locked at home and didn't even think to send us a message. Here it comes again. This family's favorite act and righteousness routine." I rolled my eyes without the slightest courtesy, as if I'd sent you a message, you would have come to unlock the door for me any sooner. If I really had messaged them, they would definitely have used being busy as an excuse and told me to wait patiently. My mom gave an awkward smile and quickly changed the subject. "I brought you some spicy hot pot. Hurry up and go eat." I knew she was trying to get me out of the way so she could swap out the peace buckle, so I got up and left, grumbling and swearing as usual. I had only eaten a few bites of my spicy hot pot before my mom left. When she said goodbye to me before leaving, she could barely keep the corners of her mouth from lifting. As soon as she was out the door, I immediately ran back to my room. Sure enough, the 2-leaf fake peace buckle I had put on the bedside table had been replaced with a 3-leaf fake. I couldn't help curling the corners of my mouth. We really are such a loving mother-daughter pair. We're exactly alike when it comes to cheating and playing tricks. I turned back around and kept eating my spicy hot pot, eating while scrolling on my phone. News about my sister meeting Jiangsu was everywhere online. Unlike me, with my year-round sun-exposed wheat-toned skin, my sister had the deathly pale belly white of a fish that had never seen the sun. On top of that, she was already a third-rate little celebrity, and she was very good at dressing herself up. Standing next to Jiangsu, they looked every bit the golden boy and girl. Literally, the golden boy refers to the sugar daddy's money. The internet was full of calls for them to get together. I took a look, and the ones shouting the loudest were all my sister's brain-dead fans. I sent one of the photos, one that clearly showed the 3-leaf peace pendant, to my mom and questioned her. When did my sister take my peace pendant? My mom had clearly been prepared for this and replied right away. "I sent yours in your own drawer. Look carefully before you speak. The one your sister is wearing was given by your grandma. Yes, your sister got 2 pieces, one of which had 3 leaves. I just didn't tell you because I was afraid you'd make a scene. They're all worthless little trinkets, so stop making such a fuss. See, in the end, I'm always the one who's wrong." I sneered and asked again. "But I was the one who saved Jiangsu. Why did my sister claim my identity?" My mom immediately called me. As soon as I picked up, my mom's roaring voice exploded in my ear. "Yunshuyo, I'm warning you, don't talk nonsense. The only one who can save Jiangsu is your sister. This is best for the whole family. Do you understand or not?" I deliberately provoked her. "I don't understand, and I don't plan to understand. I'm contacting Jiangsu right now." My mom seemed to have already guessed I'd react like this, and her tone softened immediately. "All right, all right, stop making a scene. Haven't you always wanted to rent a place of your own in the city center? Find a place, and I'll pay your rent for a year. A year's rent would be at most 100,000. Do I look like someone with such a small appetite?" I went straight for the throat. "Transfer the house you're living in now to me, and I'll stop making trouble. That house is in the inner ring of Haicheng. It isn't exactly a luxury mansion, but it's still worth around 15 million yuan now. How could my parents possibly give it to me? I made this scene for one purpose, to get my grandma's old house. I was just afraid they wouldn't agree, so I deliberately brought up a proposal they liked even less. According to the timeline from my previous life, the old town will be redeveloped next year, and a major developer will spend more than 20 million yuan to buy my grandma's old house, then expand it together with the neighboring property into a classical clubhouse, on top of the money I got from selling the pinyin buckle. What I would end up with would be twice what my sister inherited from the city apartment. I was, for the moment, satisfied. Sure enough, as soon as my mom heard that I wanted the city apartment, she was practically itching to butcher me on the spot. "Dream on. That place is being kept for your sister." She didn't even try to hide it anymore. The Yin family couldn't be bothered to keep up their fake show of fairness anymore. I only threw back one line, "Then I'll go see Jiangsu." Then I hung up right away. My mom called back in a panic. I didn't answer. I deliberately messed with her head, making her think I had already left to go find Jiangsu. Not long after, my dad's call came in too. My dad has been posted overseas for work for years and only comes home 2 or 3 times a year. Every time, he has to lecture me with that old-fashioned, authoritarian parent act. But every time, I talk back until it all turns into chaos, so he hardly ever contacted me, since it was rare for him to take the initiative. Of course I had to answer, because there were some things only he could make the call on. After the call connected, as usual, I heard my dad's lecturing voice. Yun Shuyao, you've already graduated from college, you should know better now. How can you ruin your sister's good thing just to satisfy your own selfish desires? Your personality is too straightforward. You simply can't handle someone like Jiangsu. A big shot, even if the opportunity were given to you, it would just go to waste. Her favoritism had gone all the way to outer space, and yet she was still making it sound so righteous. I really couldn't stand listening anymore, so I cut him off directly, except for transferring the city apartment to me. Don't even bring up anything else, either the rich son-in-law or the city apartment. You have to give me at least one of them, otherwise I'll let the whole world laugh at your darling daughter, Yun Qining, for pulling a switcheroo. My dad was breathing heavily. Even over the phone, I could feel his killing intent, but with the mountains high and the road long, there was nothing he could do to me. In the end, he let out an extremely reluctant sigh. You want the house, right? Then let Grandma transfer the old family home to you. That way, you and your sister will each have one place, and both will be the homes you've each been used to since childhood. As parents, we'd at least be treating you fairly. The current value of the old family home isn't even a fraction of a city apartment, and you still have the nerve to call that fair. I was so angry I laughed, but I agreed. After all, what I wanted from the start was the old house. 3. Afraid I might stir up trouble, Grandma came back the next day and kept urging me to handle the ownership transfer. While we were waiting in line, Grandma brought up the Yun family's so-called fairness theory again to brainwash me. I've guarded this old house my whole life, and I can't bear to give it to anyone. Now that I've given it to you, it's very unfair to your sister. So, since you've gotten the benefit, you should be more accommodating to your sister. Some things aren't worth fighting over, so don't fight over them. Though I felt uncomfortable hearing that, the old house still wasn't in my hands, so I could only coax her along. Don't worry, Grandma, it's just a man. If my sister wants him, she can have him. I won't fight her for him. I meant every word from the heart, even if Grandma stared at me hard with a suspicious look. She still couldn't find anything wrong with what I said. Grandma nodded slightly. That's more like it. We're family. Whoever has the ability should take the lead, and the others shouldn't hold them back. That's the only way to live in harmony and happiness. Only your harmony and happiness, right? I rolled my eyes inwardly after the transfer procedures were done. I finally said what had been weighing on my mind, with a hint of sarcasm. Grandma, I think I'm the most capable person in this family. The air froze in an instant. My grandmother's pair of dim, yellowed old eyes instantly turned as sharp as poisoned blades. Don't tell me you're still planning to ruin your sister's good fortune. Before I could react, a chill seeped up from beneath her sagging eyelids. I'm warning you, if you dare stick one finger into your sister's business and stir things up, I'll pull up a stool and sit right at the TV station entrance, telling everyone that my granddaughter is vicious, full of lies, and even willing to hurt her own biological sister. I'm an old woman on my deathbed. Anything I say will be believed. Aren't you just trying to replace your sister and rise above your station? I'll help you soar straight to the heavens. Don't think that just because the house has been transferred to you, I can't do anything about you. A house is dead, but a reputation is alive. A girl like you, once her reputation is ruined, who would dare marry you? Which company would dare hire you? Look, she really had thought of everything in advance. If I dared to make a scene, every path would be blocked by her. I gave a self-mocking laugh. Grandma thought I had given in, and her tone suddenly softened as she once again put on the Yun family theory of fairness. Look at you. Why force me to say something so harsh? If you just behave, how could Grandma ever hurt you? If your sister is doing well, don't you also get to share in the glory? A family rises and falls together. If you drag her down, you're dragging yourself and this family down too. She paused, with the same patriarchal authority the Aizenjoro family had back when it was still in power. Remember this, if you want to make a name for yourself, fine, but you can't do it by stepping on your sister's head. If you do, I'll press you back down, and if I can't press you down, I'll drag you down with me. I let out a long sigh in my heart. Fine. I've completely given up on this life. Don't worry, Grandma, I won't take my sister's good fortune away, I said with a faint smile. Grandma nodded in satisfaction, but she nodded too soon. I added softly, because her good fortune is bad luck to me. After saying that, I turned and walked away, without looking at Grandma again, but I heard Grandma's exasperated, gasping breaths. A few days later, the genuine black jade pinion buckle wrapped in gold, which had not yet reached the public auction stage, was spotted by a VIP buyer. After the commission was deducted, I ended up with $7.5 million. After getting the money, I immediately bought a small 2-bedroom apartment in Central. On the 3rd floor, all I could see outside the floor-to-ceiling windows were lush green trees. The seller had carefully renovated it, with a strong literary vibe, and even the bathroom tiles suited my taste perfectly. I could move in with just my bags, but I still lied and said I was renting it, and asked my mom for 100,000 yuan in rent money. I found a job in an office building nearby, and Walked to and from work every day, feeling utterly at ease. I no longer had to be like I was in high school, when our home in the city was only half an hour away, yet I still had to take a 1.5 hour subway ride back to the old town to stay there, for Jiangsu invested in the drama my sister is currently filming. My sister was originally the third female lead, but suddenly became the female lead. She was very happy and bragged about it on her social media account when the director said he wanted me to try out for the female lead. I thought he was joking. The pressure is so great, but since President Jiang trusts me so much, then I'll give it a try. Her pretentious act completely enraged Feng Wei, the original female lead she had replaced. In a fit of inspiration, Feng Wei decided that it made more sense for me, living in the old town, to be the one who saved someone. She even found the person who had testified to my innocence in my previous life, hoping to get them to step forward and slapped my sister in the face. The man was named Xiaorui. He was a permanent resident of the ancient town and also my childhood playmate, so he could tell me apart from Yan Qining. The newly installed camera at his house just happened to capture the moment I kicked Jiangsu into the water. He sent me a message asking whether he could say anything. I replied to him, "Keep it buried in your gut, don't say a word." But Feng Wei still took the guess as the truth and posted it online. That boastful post from Yan Qining had already brought her quite a few haters. After Feng Wei accused her of switching things around, she was cursed at badly by netizens. They all said she was shameless, always fighting her younger sister for everything. Yan Qining thought I was behind it, so she posted again and went straight after me. "Little sister, you've never been as good as me since we were kids. I know you're upset, but do you really have to prove you're better than me this way? You reusing your childhood sweetheart to make up stories? Are you trying to ruin me, or ruin this family?" Jiangsu also decided that I was jealous, afraid I'd ruin his plan to bring his first love back to life, so he hired a huge number of trolls to smear me. They portrayed me as someone who had to compete with my sister for everything and needed the whole family to accommodate me for everything. A crazy sister who throws a fit and makes a scene whenever she's unhappy. My mom sent me a message, "See, your sister is just that charming. In such a short time, she's completely won Jiangsu's heart. If it were you, you'd never have that kind of ability. You could only watch helplessly as such an excellent man was snatched away by another woman. Now, do you finally understand Mom's painstaking intentions back then?" My dad called me again and said, "Hurry up and make a statement that it was your sister who saved him. I'll give you 100,000. After our last confrontation, my dad had pretty much grasped the essence of talking to me. It could only be about money. I was already terrified that Jiangsu would realize he had the wrong person and turn around to harm me, so I took my dad's 100,000 yuan and immediately posted a statement. The person was saved by my sister, and it has nothing to do with me. At Feng Wei, I suggest the two sides go head-to-head directly and stop making up stories that hurt innocent bystanders. Then I had Yan Qining again, as the older sister, being so quick to lose your composure. "Are you trying to ruin me, or ruin this family? In short, stay the hell away, and nobody better come near me. I just want to watch the show." After that, the internet went quiet. Before long, the day Jiangsu revived his white moonlight in my previous life drew near. Relying on my memory, I anonymously leaked the time and place of the possession to Feng Wei, as well as several other actors. They were all enemies of Yan Qining. According to the ritual flair of that charlatan, the person being possessed was supposed to be tied up and bled, and then those bloodstains would be used to write the talismans. In my previous life, I learned of Jiangsu's scheme ahead of time and bribed the charlatan early on. I was still using Jiangsu's money. That conman wasn't really capable of bringing Bai Yueguang back to life anyway. When he heard that I was willing to pretend to be Bai Yueguang and make sure he didn't get exposed, he felt as if a pillow had just been handed to him the moment he was drowsy. He didn't even need to prepare a lie to cover things up afterward. We hit it off right away. Throughout the entire soul transfer ritual, I didn't suffer the slightest bit. I just went along and put on a show of being possessed by Bai Yueguang. Then I naturally and smoothly took away all of Jiangsu's wealth. If that conman hadn't been caught for killing someone else and then confessed the truth, Jiangsu would have thought for the rest of his life that I was his Bai Yueguang, and I wouldn't have had to travel the world with a fortune, living a luxurious life on the run. In this life, Yan Qining knew nothing at all. All she could think about was the glamorous life of the rich. Of course I had to invite her enemies to come and enjoy the moment when her dream shattered. Those people would definitely live stream it, which would be perfect for me to lie at home and watch the show. 5. The day of the so-called body snatching just happened to fall on a weekend. I went back to the old family mansion. My mother came too, since Yan Qining had been unwilling to hire an extra assistant. My mother had been following her around all this time, waiting on her hand and foot. After Jiangsu appeared, he hired an entire team for Yan Qining, so my mom became redundant. My sister had long been annoyed that my mom always stuck her nose into everything, so she simply kicked my mom back home to retire. Originally, my mom wanted to go abroad to reunite with my dad, but when my dad said he was about to be sent to Africa, she stopped mentioning Reunification. When she had nothing else to do, she would come to the old residence to keep my grandmother company. I planned to wait until after watching Yunqining suffer today before telling my mom that my dad wouldn't let her go, not because he was about to be sent to Africa, it was because my dad had fallen for a local Chinese woman. The Chinese woman had a baggage-laden son, and my dad was happy to be a bargain stepfather. All of this was something I accidentally discovered in my previous life. While hiding from Jiangsu all over the world, the key point that needs to be underlined is that the Chinese American is a man. By the time I got to the old mansion, Fengwei's people had already posted several secretly filmed clips online. In the video, Yunqining was tied up amid a pile of candle flames. The candles were arranged according to the shaman's talismanic pattern. Yunqining's mouth was stuffed with socks. But she was conscious. She widened her eyes and kept shaking her head. Her eyes were filled with nothing but the despair of a dying struggle, but the shaman was completely unmoved, and stepped forward to use his sword to sever the tendons in her hands and feet. She was instantly bleeding profusely. All the netizens recognized her, but everyone thought it was a candid shot from the set. Most of her new fans were bought by Jiangsu, and to show their professionalism, they all jumped out and frantically praised her acting skills. I smiled and cast the video onto the TV. My mom took one look and couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed a tissue and wiped away her tears. Your sister really is suffering for this family, taking on every hardship. My grandma, on the other hand, was surprisingly calm. She was still busy lecturing me. Yunshanyo, take a good look. Your sister's suffering is what traded for your easy life. I couldn't help it and asked blankly, what exactly is so good about my life? Is it the food or the place I live? You've been eating vegetarian with her since you were little, and not even getting enough to eat. You've become anemic from it. How is that a good thing? The house in the city, I passed by it every day in high school, yet I wasn't even allowed to live there. How is that supposed to be good? Grandma glared at me. Look at you, always nitpicking. It's not that you're not allowed to live there, it's that you don't want to. Your sister has given in to you about everything since you were little. Her ability to turn the tables really had become more and more perfected, but this time, I didn't do as I had before, shot a couple of times and then be too lazy to waste any more breath on her. I raised an eyebrow and pressed on, relentless. I don't want to, there just isn't a room for me at all, is there? She gets all the good stuff and I get thrown the bad. You call that giving in? Grandma, you're 81 this year. You should be able to see what the underworld is like by now, right? You've been sitting on that conscience for 22 years, and if you don't use it now, you'll never get the chance. No way. Don't tell me you don't even have something called a conscience. My grandmother got so angry that she grabbed a cup and threw it at me, but I was already prepared and jumped up in time to dodge it. My mom stood up for justice. Yun Shuyao, are you looking to die? Grandma has taken care of you for 22 years, and you're cursing her too. I curled my lip at my mom from across the coffee table. Look at you people, you just can't stand hearing the truth. Then I'll tell you a little more truth so you can get used to it sooner. I projected onto the TV the happy family photos of my dad and his same-sex lover, secretly taken by a private investigator. Some of them were especially hard to look at. They were photos of my dad and that man French kissing. I already sent these photos to my dad yesterday. He gave me 500,000 yuan and told me not to tell my mom, but with me being the kind of person who loves stirring up trouble, how could I possibly keep my promise? After my mom saw the photos, her face instantly turned pale. It was really as white as the belly of a dead fish. I hurriedly comforted her. Mom, don't be too nervous. This child isn't my dad's. My dad only sows seeds and never reaps the harvest. In that respect, he has really done right by you. My mom let out a wah and wailed. And while wailing, she took out her phone to call my dad. My hands were shaking, so much so that when the call connected, what came out of her mouth was a trembling voice. Yunwei, how, why you? Seeing how useless she was, I snatched her phone, hit speakerphone, and said, Dad, Mom already knows that you're keeping a male lover overseas and helping someone raise another man's child. My dad panicked and cursed me through gritted teeth. Yun Shuyao, you broke your promise, I said righteously. Mom is my biological mother, of course I have to help her. I'm not as vicious as you. My grandma leaned over and snapped at my dad. Yunwei, how? Have you lost your mind? You dare mess around with men? What if you catch some disease? Look, my grandma's logic is always flawless. My mom was so angry that she shouted grandma's full name. Su Wanfan, are you even human? Your son does something this disgusting, and all you care about is whether he'll get sick. My grandma glared at my mom, looking utterly self-righteous. Aren't I just being concerned about you? If he gets sick, you're the only one in this family who'll be dragged down with him. Don't throw my kindness back in my face. My mom completely lost it and started cursing without thinking. Su Wanfan, stop putting on airs. You're a perfect example of a rotten root producing rotten shoots. My dad roared at my mom over the phone. Young Nan, how do you have the nerve to yell at my mom? Apologize to her right now, or I'll come back and divorce you. My mom cried even louder. As for how she fought back against my dad and argued with my grandma, I had no interest in watching Anymore anyway, none of them would have any good days ahead, and that was enough. 6. Fengwei went looking for the person who had secretly taken photos and body snatched, but in the end he couldn't stand the bloody scene and called the police. The police notified me, because both my mom and my grandma had been admitted to the hospital. Nobody answered the phone. My grandma had been so angered that her blood pressure shot up and she fainted. My mom, meanwhile, was hit in the eye by my grandma with a remote control. The one thing they had in common was that both had lost at least half their hair. I rushed to the hospital to visit 3 patients at once. What a great, delightful. I went to see my sister first. Her hands and feet were all wrapped in bandages. She stared blankly at the ceiling, utterly listless. I heard that Jiangsu was there in person, and that he had even drawn her blood himself. The blow was no small one. When I pushed the door open and went in, Fengwei was mocking her. Get up. Keep showing off how much you're Mr. Jiang dotes on you. Haha. I kicked the back of Fengwei's knee, and she instantly dropped to her knees in front of the hospital bed. My sister immediately perked up, sat up, and gave me a thumbs up. That's my real sister. She turned to Fengwei. Get up. Come on, keep acting all cocky. Let's see whether my little sister beats you to death. Fengwei glanced at the force stand I was holding up and silently swallowed. Then she slowly got to her feet, kept apologizing nonstop, and quietly slumped toward the door. I didn't stop her. She had only nearly brought trouble down on me. A couple of kicks was enough. Yun Qining was very dissatisfied. Yun Shuyao, how could you just let her go like that? You should have beaten her half to death before letting her leave. She was ordering me around just like always. As always, I slapped the back of her head. Dream on. You don't actually think I came here just to avenge you, do you? Yun Qining clutched the back of her head, looking thoroughly annoyed. If you're not here to stand up for me, then what are you here for? I folded my arms across my chest and said shamelessly, same as Fengwei, I'm here to watch you make a fool of yourself. Yun Qining was so exasperated she couldn't catch her breath, and she thumped her chest to get herself breathing again. After waiting patiently for her to recover, I asked with a smile, so, how does it feel to fight over being the sacrifice? She glared at me, and the breath she had just gotten under control started going bad again. I ignored her and kept mocking her. I really should thank you. If you weren't so eager to grab everything, the one getting blood drawn would have been me. Congratulations, now you've lost face completely, and your career is ruined too. You've really turned yourself into a joke. Yun Qining's lips turned blue. She pointed at me, wanting to curse me out, but then rolled her eyes and fainted. I hurried to call the doctor, mainly because I hadn't finished venting yet, and I couldn't just let her kick the bucket like that. After a round of emergency treatment, Yun Qining woke up, but the look in her eyes was completely different from before. It was as if she had been drifting on the sea for 3 days and 3 nights, and finally saw a ship coming. But when the ship drew near, she realized it was a pirate ship. You were reincarnated long ago, weren't you? Yun Qining's voice carried the resentment of someone who hadn't had enough of life before dying. I froze for a moment, then broke into a grin. How nice. Without me having to waste any more words, I could make her heart ache like a knife, because in her past life, she had married 3 times, each husband poorer than the last, and in the end she died from illness and poverty. Before she died, I went to see her, wearing the diamond ring she had longed for most, worth a cool 100 million. She only said, if you hadn't ruined my good thing, this ring should be on my finger. Then she was angered to death on the spot. Given a second chance at life, she not only failed to reflect, but still stubbornly refused to admit the truth. No matter what happens in this life, I still have the house my parents gave me, and the peace pendant my grandma gave me. I don't have to do anything, and I still have money, a house, and the love of my parents and grandma. And I'll still live 100 times better than you. I smiled and nodded. Hold on to it tight, don't end up with nothing in the end. That same line from my past life. If you're begging for food, don't do it in front of my door, or I'll set the dog on you. Based on my memories from my past life, the apartment in the city center became worthless after someone upstairs brought an e-bike battery home to charge it, and the ceiling was blown through. This time around, there won't be any accidents. I wasn't in a hurry. I'd wait until Yun Qining lost the house and then sold the piece pendant. Only after discovering it was fake would she understand exactly what I meant by what I said today. I couldn't be bothered to care how frantically Yun Qining was losing her mind, and went to see my mom. My mom had one eye covered with a bandage and lay lifelessly on the bed. When she saw me, she sat up at once, clutching my hand as tears streamed down her face. Yo, Mom was wrong. You're the family's lucky star. I looked at her in complete confusion, wondering if she had been reborn. 2. My mom sobbed uncontrollably. Mom remembers everything now. Back then, when the master was fortune-telling for you and your sister, you were the first to grab the prayer beads, and then your sister snatched them away. The master happened to turn his head and didn't see it, and I thought it was no big deal, so I didn't say anything, but just now I thought it over. And the master said that whoever got the prayer beads first would be the lucky star who could bring prosperity to the whole family. He told me I had to treat the lucky star well, or there would be retribution. I was so stupid. I never thought you were the lucky star who took the prayer beads first, and I was always so awful to you, which is why things turned out like this today. Woo-woo. I'm sorry, it's all Mom's fault. I let out a hard sigh. Well, no need for me to drive the knife in any further. Her heart was already shattered, but I still decided to kick them while they were down. No wonder. My sister knew years ago that my dad had a male lover outside the family and flat out refused to tell you, so she's basically a jinx. She came here just to bring you bad luck. My mom suddenly stopped crying, stiffening her neck as rage filled her eyes. The veins in her neck were throbbing wildly. I quickly told her my sister's room number, and even thoughtfully put the ruler I'd bought from a street stall at the hospital entrance into her hand, and I kindly reminded her, hitting the injured area directly will give you twice the result with half the effort. After saying that, I made up an excuse to go see Grandma and quickly slipped away, but as soon as I got out of the ward, I left. What did Grandma's life or death have to do with me? I will always remember that when I was 3, I lost my footing and fell into the river. I thrashed about in the water, while my grandmother stood on the bank, completely unmoved. 7. My grandmother never opened her eyes again. My father rushed back from overseas to attend the funeral. My mother stabbed him directly for the rest of their lives. One would be sewing on a sewing machine, and the other would be on a ventilator neatly and tidily. My mom whipped my sister's wound hard with a rattan ruler, causing it to become infected and give her a fever, so she couldn't attend the funeral. So I had no choice but to take Grandma's ashes and place them by her bedside, so she could feel Grandma's love every day. No one came to talk to me about fairness anymore, and no one tried to guilt-trip me morally anymore either. I happily watched the news about that apartment in the city center exploding from my own little 2-bedroom place, as well as answered the phone call that came in, furious, when Yunqining sold the peace amulet. Yunshuyo, why is the peace amulet fake? Did you switch it out? I grabbed a handful of the biggest blueberries and stuffed them into my mouth, then told her calmly, what's there to switch? Grandma said that thing wasn't worth much to begin with. Back then, Grandma had fooled me just like that, and Yunqining was covering her mouth and snickering beside her. Yunqining was left tongue-tied by me. You knew mine was real. You switched it on purpose, didn't you? I gave a faint laugh. If I were that smart, I wouldn't have been fooled by you all for over 20 years, would I? I hung up the phone and couldn't be bothered to deal with her anymore. Yunqining called the police, but there was no evidence at all to prove that I had committed a crime, and I went on living a carefree life. The next year, when the ancient town was rebuilt, I got my desired 20 million, but it wasn't over yet. After serving a year in prison, Jiangsu suddenly regained the memories of his past life and found me, insisting on transferring all his assets to me. He said that after what happened in the previous life, he had fallen deeply and irrevocably in love with me. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent his entire life hunting me down, yet still been unable to kill me. He hoped to spend the rest of his life living well with me. I kicked him right out, but the property transfer agreement was left behind. After starting over in this life, I was still living in luxury and comfort, and I didn't even have to keep hiding and running around. I was more than satisfied. Story 2. After being reborn, I still chose to return to the Liu family, just like in my previous life. The fake heiress Serena pretended to be kind and friendly on the surface, while secretly setting me up, humiliating me, and bullying me. Little did she know that this time, I had a body-swapping system, so when she framed me for pushing her down the stairs, my mom was the one who got blamed by the whole family. When she dragged me to that high society tea party, my dad became the laughingstock. When she cornered me in the restroom with her friends, my brother ended up being bullied. On my first night back at the Liu residence, Serena came looking for trouble. You orphanage brat, don't think finding your father makes you somebody. I'm the real Miss Liu. She cornered me by the window where I'd been spacing out, her eyes dripping with undisguised malice. Just this afternoon she'd hung her head, held my hand and apologized for stealing the life that should have been mine. How quickly she's changed her tune. Is that so? But I heard your mother's just a hospital janitor, I said coldly, my lips curling into a sneer. 18 years ago, Serena's biological mother swapped me with her in our swaddling clothes. Unable to provide a decent life for her own daughter, she stole someone else's future. After taking me away, she had no intention of raising me either, and simply abandoned me on the side of the road. Fortunately, I was a tough survivor. A kind stranger found me and brought me to an orphanage. 6 months ago, Serena was in a car accident. When our parents realized our blood types didn't match, they uncovered the truth. After searching around, they found me at the orphanage and brought me home, but they couldn't bear to part with Serena either, whom they had raised from childhood, so they kept her with them. On the way back, my father warned me while smoking a cigarette, we raised Serena ourselves. She's gentle and kind-hearted, so you must get along well with her. Having grown up in an orphanage, I was desperately craving love and didn't even notice that my father hadn't mentioned a single word about me in his entire speech. I went home with him overjoyed, believing my life would be nothing but happiness from then on. Little did I know that the gentle and kind Serena my father described was actually a two-faced, vicious, and cold-hearted villain. After she returned in this life, she acted gentle and considerate in front of others, always taking care of me, but behind my back, she set me up and humiliated me. Even my own parents and biological brother only believed her. The disappointment drove me into depression, but Serena still wouldn't let me go. She had people bully me. At school, burned by cigarette butts, beaten to a pulp in the restroom, and ostracized by the entire school, I finally reached my breaking point and jumped from the 32nd floor, but I didn't die. I was reborn. I'll smash your mouth in. Serena's biggest insecurity was her lowborn mother, and I just laid it bare. Enraged, she raised her hand to strike me, but I caught her wrist midair. I wasn't about to indulge her like in my past life. Without hesitation, I slapped her across the face. A sharp crack rang out, and 5 crimson finger marks immediately bloomed across her pale, delicate cheek. Serena was stunned by my slap, but quickly snapped out of it and lunged at me, grabbing for my hair. I sidestepped her attack just as the sound of rapid footsteps echoed from outside the door. Perfect timing, I thought to myself, just as expected. Serena's expression shifted instantly upon hearing the noise, her previous ferocious contortion melting into a pitiful, wounded look. Her almond-shaped eyes reddened slightly, and she half-covered her face, putting on quite the convincing act. So when my mom pushed the door open and entered, she saw Serena pointing at me with tear-filled eyes, saying, "Little sister, I just wanted to have a heart-to-heart with you. I didn't bring up the orphanage on purpose. Please don't be angry." I curled my lip. Her acting skills put today's popular starlets to shame. What a waste that she hasn't entered the entertainment industry, just as I expected. My mom rushed over immediately. She wrapped her arms around Serena, cupped her face to examine it closely, and upon seeing the bright red handprint, pulled Serena behind her protectively. "Where are your manners?" Even if Serena said something, how could you lay a hand on her? Without even asking what happened, she started yelling at me, pointing her finger right in my face. I sneered inwardly. No regrets. At least I managed to slap Serena back. In my past life, I'd often get beaten by her and then be falsely accused of bullying her. At first I tried to explain, but after a few attempts I realized no one believed a word I said, so I stopped bothering. "Mom, are you sure you don't want to hear the whole story?" I asked one last time. "What's there to ask? Look at Serena's face. You're not having dinner tonight," my mother said coldly. Serena gave me a triumphant smile from my mother's arms. Watching the heartwarming scene between mother and daughter, I couldn't help but wonder if my mom would regret this later. After my mother left with her arm around Serena, I lay down on the bed. A voice echoed, "Host, the body swap system is initializing. Please prepare yourself." I nodded. I had been reborn with the body swap system coursing through me. The moment I hit the ground, I felt my bones shattering inch by inch, my flesh crushed to pulp. An overwhelming wave of agony swept through my entire body as blood slowly seeped from my wounds. Just when I thought death had come, a voice echoed, "Would you like another chance?" He asked me, but I remained silent. Unlike those who regret dying, death was my final destination. Seeing my reluctance to answer, the voice spoke again. "If not a second chance, how about letting them experience what you've endured? Let them feel what I feel, my despair, loneliness, pain, and helplessness." I agreed, and to fulfill his promise, I was granted the body swap system. It allows me to swap bodies with someone. During the swap, the other person inherits everything from me, both physical and mental, and no one can find out, or there will be consequences tonight. I chose my mom in an instant. The scene before my eyes shifted from the cold room to Serena's face. "Mom, do you think my sister doesn't like me?" She hung her head slightly, tears welling in her eyes as if carrying endless grievances. "If it were my mom, she'd probably hold her close and comfort her, but it's me here instead." "Then you should reflect on what's actually likable about yourself," I retorted, stepping back a couple of paces to avoid her making me sick. Serena noticed my drastic change in attitude and looked up at me in disbelief. "Mom, it was my sister who hit me." She pointed to her face. I had slapped her pretty hard, and her face was still swollen. "Served her right." "Oh really? Why only one side of your face? With that nasty mouth of yours, you deserve more." "How could you say that?" "Mom, it's because I'm not your biological daughter, isn't it? You hate me now, don't you?" Serena dramatically burst out, as if she were in a soap opera. This time her tears weren't fake, they streamed down her face in torrents. Seeing her like this, I really wanted to say something, but the system strictly forbade revealing my identity. "Your sister just got back, and instead of treating her well, you're constantly picking fights. When will you grow up? Get out, and no dinner for you tonight either," I said, turning away. The words were cold and cruel, something I'd grown accustomed to over the years, but Serena had never faced such harsh treatment from our mother before. Convinced our mother was favoring me over her, she ran out sobbing. After Serena left, I wandered around my mother's room. TSK, the lady of a wealthy household lives so comfortably. Just the sight of the closet full of luxury goods and the jewelry casually left lying around tells you how rich the Liu family is. Yet despite all this, in my past life before I died, my mother wouldn't even ask for the registration fee I needed for a competition, simply because Serena claimed it was just my scheme to swindle money from the family that evening. I ordered the servants to lock my mother and Serena in their respective rooms, and I dined alone at the massive dining table. Braised pork belly paired with my mother's screams, delicious sea cucumber porridge paired with Serena's wailing, a match made in heaven. After eating and drinking my fill, I went to my mom's room. Wait, no, it used to be my room. This room was at the westernmost end of the house, cramped and sunless, but even so, when I first returned in my past life, I was already quite content because it was so much better than the orphanage. That was until I found out it was originally the servants' quarters, and from the moment I stepped into the Liu family's home, no one ever treated me as family. My mom, trapped in my body, lay on the bed with a vacant stare. She didn't make a sound even when someone opened the door. Seems she's already experienced the system's punishment. How are you feeling? Mom, I found a chair, sat down, and tilted my head as I spoke to my mother. Realizing it was me, she abruptly jumped up from the bed. What on earth have you done? She shrieked. It's nothing, Mom. You always said I was ill-mannered, so I just wanted to see how well-mannered you would be when it was your turn. I hope you and your precious daughter get along wonderfully. I clapped my hands, turned, and walked away. Ignoring my mother's shouts behind me, I left home early for my scheduled full body spa appointment, figuring it was best to leave the battlefield to them. Lying on the spa bed, I turned on the camera I'd had installed overnight, ready to watch the show. After the humiliation Serena suffered last night, she definitely wouldn't let it slide. Sure enough, the moment I left, she started giving orders to the staff. No need to prepare breakfast for her. She sat at the dining table, watching my mother with a cold sneer. My mother paused, probably taken aback that her gentle, sweet-natured daughter could act this way. Why didn't you make any for me? She demanded, frowning with a tone that still carried a hint of reprimand. Serena gave a light laugh. No particular reason. Someone of your low standing doesn't deserve to eat the Liu family's food. Last night's incident infuriated Serena, and she made no attempt to hide her true feelings. How dare you speak to me like that? If I'm low class, what does that make you? My mother slammed her hand on the table, furious. Having been raised in privilege, she had never been insulted like this before. Unfortunately, she was wearing my face. Serena stood up and shoved her to the ground. Who do you think you are, acting so arrogantly in the Liu family? Didn't you learn your lesson yesterday? She conveniently ignored the fact that she had also been taught a lesson. My mother's eyes widened in disbelief, clearly not expecting her well-bred daughter to resort to physical violence. Do you have any idea who I am? How dare you? She shrieked, but before she could finish, her body went limp and collapsed as if struck by lightning. I knew it was the system's punishment for detecting her attempt to reveal her true identity. Serena showed no intention of helping. Instead, she stepped forward and nudged my mother's limp body with the tip of her shoe. What an actress. Just ignore her. She let out a cold snort and walked away. The Liu family servants were all quite perceptive. Serena was clearly more favored than the newcomer. So they all lowered their heads and went about their tasks. After hearing her instructions, my mother lay on the ground for a full half-hour before she finally recovered, having gone all night without food or sleep, and now hit with this. Her stomach was churning violently. Get me something to eat, she called out, but no one paid her any attention. Her eyes welled up with angry tears, but she had no choice but to get up and search the kitchen for food herself. There should be leftover bread on the second shelf of the fridge, I thought to myself as I watched my mother searched back and forth on the monitor, only to come up empty-handed. In my past life, no one prepared breakfast for me on Serena's orders either. At first, I just had to go hungry, but later, the kitchen maid took pity on me and told me there might be leftover bread in the fridge, but she was fired soon after. Serena wouldn't tolerate anyone showing me the slightest kindness. My mother had gone without food for a full day and night. By the time I returned at noon, she was completely drained. When I handed her the takeout fried chicken, she immediately devoured it ravenously. When are you going to switch me back? She asked, setting down the water glass with greasy lips still unwiped. How amusing. Squinting, I saw my own face, yet I could clearly sense it wasn't me. Just one morning was all it took for my mom to reach her breaking point. No rush. We still have a few days left. I meant it. My mom wasn't the only one in this house who made me miserable. I couldn't waste the body swap system entirely on her. Over the next few days, Serena made sure my mom had it rough. Learning from my mistake that night, she put on a show of sisterly affection in front of me, but behind my back, she was either hitting or cursing at her. Insults were flying left and right, but I chose to turn a blind eye. Can't you do something about this? My mom yelled, thrusting her scalded red hand in front of my face. Just moments ago, Serena had claimed she wasn't feeling well and asked my mom to pass her a cup of water, only to immediately knock over the steaming mug, splashing scalding water that left an angry red mark on my mom's hand. Before my mom could even cry out, Serena frantically grabbed tissues to wipe her hand, saying, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, it was an accident. Her eyes were slightly red, as if she were the one who got burned. She kept rubbing the scalded spot hard, making my mother yelp in pain. Why should I care? Serena didn't mean to do it, and she already apologized, didn't I leaned back on the sofa, casually examining my newly done nails. You saw it yourself. She did it on purpose. Hearing my words, my mother could no longer hold back, and tears streamed down her face. My expression turned cold, and I felt no sympathy at all as I watched her pitiful look. In my past life, driven by a childlike devotion, I pleaded with her in the same way before jumping. I laid out all the evidence of Serena framing and bullying me, begging her to grant me a moment of justice. Why always you and not someone else? Can't you look within yourself for the reason? Her eyes were half-lidded, filled with nothing but disgust. Those words shattered my last hope, and I leaped. She saw it all clearly, yet she did nothing. Can't you look at yourself for once? You can't even pour a glass of water properly. I threw her words right back at her. I watched Serena's antics with cold detachment. She mistook my silence for consent and only grew more brazen. Sadly, my mother's resilience was less than half of mine. In just a few days, she was already on the verge of breaking down. Little sister, I give you anything you want, but this was Dad's birthday gift to me. How could you cut it to shreds? Serena wept bitterly, her face buried in her hands. A dress lay on the bed, its prominent logo and exquisite tailoring hinting at its hefty price tag. Unfortunately, the hem had been slashed to shreds. My mother stood there numb, knowing full well that no one would listen to any explanation, so she stubbornly remained off to the side, watching Serena's performance. But she was still too naive. Serena never did anything without an ulterior motive, and her cold-shouldered self these past few days was no longer the target. Sure enough, just as Serena was putting on her most pitiful weeping act, my father walked in with my brother. Daddy, I'm so sorry, this was your gift to me. I wanted to take good care of it, but look what happened. Serena wailed even more dramatically. Upon seeing them enter, she didn't mention my mother at all, yet instantly redirected her fury toward her. One was arrogant and domineering the moment she regained her status. The other was pitiful and vulnerable after learning her true origins. The two men would quickly choose their sides. I told you on the way back that Serena is still part of this family. Why can't you just accept her? My father scolded with a face dark with anger. After bringing me back, he didn't even stay for a single day before taking my brother abroad. They just returned today. Serena timed this perfectly. I quietly took a few steps back, leaving the battlefield to them. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're back. Serena is my real sister, my brother Luquan said, immediately shielding Serena behind him. Maybe my mom could tolerate my indifference, but she couldn't stand the verbal abuse from my dad and brother. You're judging me without even asking what happened. Can't you tell right from wrong? She was trembling with rage. Her face flushed bright red from agitation. The dress is right here. How could anyone falsely accuse you? No sooner had she spoken than my brother jumped in. He prided himself on being Serena's biggest protector. How could he let an outsider like me bully her? Ivy, you just got back, so it's understandable if you don't know the rules yet, but don't bring those orphanage habits home with you. How ridiculous. They keep bringing up the orphanage as if being abandoned there was my fault. My mother stood in the center, jaw clenched tight. It was the first time she'd ever been scolded by so many people. Her fists were balled up so hard her knuckles turned white. She clearly had more to say, but the words seemed to choke in her throat. Just moments ago, I thought that even with my face, she was nothing like me, but in this instant, I felt as if she had become me. It's just a dress. Can the Liu family not afford it? Is all this crying and carrying on really necessary? How would it look if word got out? I said coldly, my gaze sweeping over Serena. Perhaps my stare was too sharp. She lowered her eyes, looking guilty. I didn't want to come to my mother's defense, but I couldn't let Serena gloat either. My father, who cares most about the family's reputation, pressed his lips together and stayed silent. My brother wanted to say more, but Serena held him back. She was also afraid things would escalate and I might say something I shouldn't. After everyone had dispersed, my mother remained standing in the same spot. She wasn't like this when she was little. I'll make sure to discipline her properly from now on, she uttered, her dry lips barely moving. But those words erased the last trace of sympathy I had left in my heart. That was her childhood. But what about mine? I turned and walked away. That evening, my mother and I switched back one by one. Who should be next? Don't make breakfast for her, my mother instructed the servants as soon as she came downstairs. At that moment, Serena was snuggled up next to my father, who had promised to buy her a new sports car for her birthday because of what happened last night. Mom, she already knows she was wrong. Don't be like this. Hearing my mother's words, she thought my mom was scolding me, and a smug smile crept across her lips. I was talking about you. What are you doing sitting like that? A grown girl leaning all over a man. Have you no shame? My mother snapped at Serena. Startled by my mother's outburst, she bolted upright from her seat. It's true that a biological daughter leaning against her father is fine, but she's an adopted daughter now, an 18-year-old in the bloom of youth. Mom, I didn't mean to. I thought I was still. Serena's words, like her tears, trembled on her lips, making my father frown instantly. What kind of mother talks to her own daughter like that? Maybe I shouldn't speak as a mother like that, but you as a father should know better than to cross boundaries. My mother stood her ground, determined to get back at him for the humiliation she'd suffered days before. My father pursed his lips, swallowing back whatever he was about to say. In my past life, I'd seen Serena crying in my father's arms more than once. Looking back now, something about it feels off. Seeing no one come to her defense, Serena cried even harder. "Mom, what did I do to deserve this?" my mother sneered. "The lower class doesn't deserve to eat at the Liu family's table." The moment my mother spoke, Serena turned to look at me. I knew exactly what she was thinking. She assumed I had tattled on her. "Mom, it's a misunderstanding. I was just saying that since she's never had our home-cooked food before, I was worried it might not suit her taste," Serena hastily explained. "She's always had a knack for twisting the truth, but this time, it probably won't work. I have a brain. I don't need you to explain what you meant," my mother said coldly, staring straight at Serena. Serena saw her act wasn't working, so she could only look at my dad with pleading eyes, but he was still feeling guilty about what happened earlier and didn't dare make a sound. With no one to back her up, she felt utterly wronged. Sobbing, she ran outside, and my dad immediately followed her. "Well, if anything comes up, remember to tell me," my mom said to me, her tone a bit awkward. I didn't answer, instead keeping my eyes on the direction they had run off. Dad clearly adores Serena and must be eager to spend quality time with her. I should help make that happen. So when Serena beamed and invited me to a high society afternoon tea, I happily accepted. "My little sister is new here and doesn't know many people in our circle yet. I'm just introducing her around." Her words were so impeccably phrased that even my mother couldn't find fault. Ever since my mother reduced her to tears last time, she's held a bitter grudge against me. She kept pulling the same old tricks, either falsely accusing me of stealing her things or claiming I pushed her down the stairs, but my mom seemed to have eyes in the back of her head, always showing up just in time to expose her lies. "The necklace I gave her is 10,000 times more expensive than the one you lost. Why would she want your worthless junk? If you can't keep your balance, go see a doctor about your legs instead of blaming everyone else all day long. That little scratch will probably heal before we even get to the hospital. What's all the crying for?" My mother's words grew sharper each time, and every episode would end with Serena running to my father in tears. Then my mom would appear at just the right moment, fixing them with a warning glare. After a few rounds of this, even my father started getting annoyed. She must have sensed it herself, because she switched tactics. My mother was clearly pleased, though she took my side. In her heart, she still couldn't bear to be harsh on the daughter she'd raised from childhood. As for my father, before I could even respond, he cut in. "Now that you're back with the Liu family, it'd do you good to go out with Serena more often and see the world. Might help you shake off that provincial attitude." "Serena, that's more like it." He patted Serena's shoulder with a gratified smile. I kept silent and nodded obediently. "Dear father, I hope you'll still be smiling like this when the time comes." True to his worldly experience, my father quickly composed himself upon learning we'd switch back, unlike my mother, who was in a panic. "You'll pay for this when we switch back," he snarled, glaring daggers at me. Ahem. I cleared my throat, picking up his expensive teacup and mimicking his mannerisms. "Learn properly from Serena. Don't embarrass the Liu family." My father was fuming, but before he could say another word, Serena called him away. "This is my favorite necklace. Wear it so those people won't look down on you," Serena said as she fastened an expensive diamond necklace around my father's neck. A gentle smile graced her face as she moved with tender familiarity, embodying the very picture of a caring older sister. My father was clearly eating it up, shooting me a sidelong glance as I leaned against the doorframe, his expression practically accusing me of stirring up trouble for no reason. I ambled over languidly, picked up the necklace and weighed it in my palm. Dazzling and exquisitely crafted, it was undeniably a complete fake. In my previous life, I wore this very necklace to an important gathering, only to have its counterfeit nature exposed right then and there. They laughed at me and mocked me. Even though Serena is the fake heiress, they said it figures I'd use counterfeit items since I'm a fraud myself. When I got home, my father was furious, saying I'd disgraced the Liu family. I snapped and told him Serena gave me the necklace and I didn't know it was fake, but he just slapped me to the ground. "Don't bring those orphanage tricks of yours around here. If you ever embarrass me like this again, I'll beat you to death." His face was so twisted with rage, he looked like he meant it. I just found it ironic. They always bring up the orphanage, as if growing up there was somehow my fault. This time, I set down the necklace with a smile, not uttering another word. I wonder how it feels for my always high and mighty father to be mocked and ridiculed by so many people in this upscale hotel. Even a simple afternoon tea costs a fortune. Yet these rich socialites have booked up the entire floor. But as CEO Liu, under the guise of being a doting father, I reserved a private booth 1 floor up. The spot offers a perfect bird's-eye view of everything below. I ordered an expensive glass of red wine and settled in for the show. "You're here quite early." In no time, Serena dragged my father in. The Liu family runs a substantial business in the city, and she, being socially adept, has always been the center of attention. "Serena, it's been ages since I last saw you." As soon as she appeared, someone pulled her aside to ask after I was brought back, Serena had indeed been absent for a long time, and everyone was waiting to see her downfall, the perfect drama of a fallen fake heiress. After the car accident, Mom and Dad insisted I rest properly, so I stayed home. With that single remark, she highlighted her parents' concern while subtly asserting her standing in the Liu family. The shrewd crowd immediately shifted their expressions. "This is my sister," my father announced as she pulled him forward to face everyone. My father, likely unaccustomed to being surrounded by so many young women, could only offer an awkward smile, but Serena wasn't about to let her off the hook. "This is my sister Ivy. She's been recuperating in the countryside due to poor health and only recently returned. Do take good care of her," she said with a meaningful smile. The underlying message was immediately understood, and Serena's close friends quickly gathered around. "Oh, dear Ivy, what a stunning necklace. It must have cost a fortune. May we have a closer look?" Up until that moment, my dad still thought Serena meant well, until the necklace clattered to the floor. The moment it hit the ground, the delicate necklace immediately fell apart, and the diamonds shattered upon impact. "This must be made of glass. How else could it break like that?" The girl sitting next to Serena spoke up immediately. "I knew her, Zoe, Serena's loyal sidekick. Her family's business had always relied on the Liu family's support, so she constantly fawned over Serena." Whatever Serena said, Zoe would eagerly agree. "In my past life, I suffered no less at her hands than Serena did." "How could this be?" my father exclaimed. Having been born into the Liu family, he never imagined there could be such a thing as genuine versus fake in this world. Now, seeing the fake diamonds scattered all over the floor, he was completely stunned. "Ivy must have set this up to frame us." Zoe cradled her coffee cup, her eyes glancing downward as she nudged a nearby fragment with the tip of her shoe. The disdain in her tone was unmistakable. The others immediately caught on. "Oh my, Serena, your sister really is from the countryside, isn't she? I've always heard country folks are supposed to be simple and honest, but she's just full of tricks. Serena, you're so generous-hearted. How come your sister is like this, just brimming with malice?" Another girl chimed in, leaning away and fanning her hand near her nose as if my father carried some unpleasant odor. I knew exactly what she meant, that whiff of poverty. In my past life, Serena had once sneered that even after returning to the Liu family, I still carried that inescapable stench of destitution. Back then, I simply emptied the entire bottle of ketchup over her head. Since she lacked that poor people smell, I figured I'd give her something tangy instead, but clearly, my father couldn't do the same. His life had always been smooth sailing. Aside from my little surprise, almost everything went exactly as he wished. In public, he was the esteemed President Liu. At home, he was the deeply authoritative head of the household, so he had never experienced this kind of pain, never felt what it meant to be utterly helpless, and naturally had no idea how to fight back in such a situation. The constant taunts made my father, a grown man, blush. He wanted to speak up but found himself outmatched by a group of teenage girls. "And no, that's not it," he stammered, managing only a few words before his face turned crimson. The girl next to her accidentally spilled the entire glass of juice on her dress. "Oh dear, this dress must be expensive too. What if I can't afford to pay for it?" she exclaimed with exaggerated drama, covering her mouth. Someone immediately chimed in, "It's probably a fake too, just trying to pull a scam." Their back-and-forth remarks made my father flush with anger. He realized he could charm everyone in the boardroom, yet found himself utterly tongue-tied among these young girls. His eyes darted to his beloved daughter in a silent plea, only to find her serenely sipping coffee with downcast eyes. The pieces finally clicked. She was the mastermind behind this whole charade, but bound by the Liu family's reputation, he couldn't even dump the entire coffee cup on the culprit's head like I did in my previous life. Watching from my elevated perch, I felt an immense satisfaction coursing through me. By the time I finished dinner at home, my father was just returning from outside. He was drenched from head to toe, with rainwater dripping steadily from his hair, shivering from the cold. His once elegant dress was now smeared with mud and juice stains. During afternoon tea, one moment a young lady spilled her juice, and the next, a waiter poured red wine all over my father's head. Amid their teasing and mockery, my father was completely at their mercy, being led around by the nose. In the end, Serena outright abandoned him by the roadside, with a heavy rain pouring outside, and my father penniless. He had no choice but to walk for 2 solid hours to get back to the Liu family villa. "Oh, I thought you said you wanted to play a bit longer, little sister. How did you end up like this?" Serena feigned surprise. My father's face darkened, and he immediately slapped Serena. "I'll beat you to death, you ungrateful daughter." Unable to explain why, he could only keep hitting Serena over and over. Caught completely off guard, Serena tried to fight back but was no match for my father's strength. In a fit of rage, my father struck with such force that Serena's face swelled up. After Just a few blows, how ironic. Serena was the apple of my father's eye, his pampered little princess, yet he didn't hesitate to lay a hand on her. If he's flying off the handle over such a minor hardship, I can only imagine how he'll react when Serena fights back. I lounged on the sofa, watching the whole spectacle unfold, until my brother burst onto the scene. He shoved my dad, who was pinning me down, and yelled, "Ivy, are you out of your damn mind? You go fool around outside and come back to hit people." See, whenever Serena and I have a conflict, no matter what, everyone ends up blaming me. My dad was pushed to the ground, gasping for breath, his eyes burning red. The high and mighty President Lou must be absolutely furious after being humiliated like that. "Get the hell away from me," he roared. My brother tenderly stroked the bruises on Serena's face, then turned and kicked our father, who was lying on the ground. His ambiguous feelings for Serena, after learning they weren't blood-related, spread through him like wildfire. Seeing the woman he loved get hurt, he naturally reacted with immediate violence. Our father never imagined he'd one day be beaten by his own son. The pain was excruciating, and his rage was white-hot. Struggling to his feet, he charged at my brother. My scrawny frame was no match for my brother, but my father's sheer rage sent him crashing to the ground. The three of them instantly became a tangled mess of flailing limbs. Quite the spectacle. I sat on the couch, munching sunflower seeds, thoroughly amused by this dog-eat-dog scuffle. By the time my mother returned, all three were sporting fresh wounds. She glanced at me sitting on the sofa with a knowing smirk and immediately understood the situation, scolding them as she pulled them apart. "Next week I've invited close friends and family to formally introduce Ivy to everyone," she said with a stern expression. This never happened in my previous life. The Lou family never officially acknowledged me before I died. Their excuse was that if they introduced me publicly, Serena wouldn't be able to handle it. No one cared how I, with no status or recognition, would manage. Everyone only had eyes for Serena. My mother's gaze swept over me. This was both Serena's punishment and my consolation. "Mom, what should I do then?" Serena's voice trembled with tears, her cheeks slightly swollen, with tears welling in her eyes like pear blossoms glistening with rain. She looked utterly pitiable. "I will tell everyone you are the Lou family's adopted daughter," my mother said, lowering her eyelids and avoiding her gaze. Serena covered her face and began to sob. She had been looking at my dad and brother with hopeful anticipation this whole time. Unfortunately, I was the one inhabiting my dad's body, and my brother was even less articulate. If Serena were his biological sister, he wouldn't stand a chance. But with her being an adopted daughter, it was a different story. "Are you satisfied with how things turned out?" my dad asked me after my brother helped Serena leave. "Mission accomplished. Can we switch back now?" He was furious about my brother and Serena's actions, but what he resented even more was that I had swapped bodies with him. He thought I cared about being a Lou family daughter, which is why he set up this whole scheme. Little did he know, I was ashamed to be associated with the Lou family. "Dad, do you think Serena will let me become a Lou family member without any trouble?" I asked, tilting my head and grinning at my father. My father's expression shifted. Today's events had taught him one thing: his seemingly innocent and naive youngest daughter was not someone to be trifled with. "So Dad, I'll need you to tough it out for a few more days." I patted my father's shoulder and headed upstairs to show how seriously she was taking this. Mom had invited practically everyone she could get hold of. "Your father's learned his lesson by now. Let's switch back with her after today wraps up. There's still company business to handle." My mother fiddled with her jewelry, feigning nonchalance. She watched me out of the corner of her eye, lips pressed together as if gauging my reaction. Even after my dad gave her a good beating, Serena still wouldn't let up. With my brother backing her up, she'd torment my dad every now and then. She'd either boss him around, making him fetch and carry, or she'd make snide remarks. And my dad couldn't fight back, because I told him if they got into it, I'd record the whole thing and post it online for everyone to see. The dirty laundry of the rich and powerful. Looks like my dad couldn't take this kind of life anymore and went to make a scene with my mom. "Don't worry, Mom, when today is over, Dad and I will switch back," I replied with a smile. I turned away, letting the smile fade from my face. I didn't tell them that the body swapping system has a time limit. I can't occupy someone else's body for long, nor can I let my body be taken over for extended periods. I seized every opportunity to improve my situation, but now it seems it might all be in vain. After all, just yesterday, right after Serena had bullied him, my dad still sighed and said, "Serena wasn't like this before. I guess she just wasn't mentally prepared for you coming back." What a perfect excuse. Even though I'd already given up hope, a chilling numbness still crept through my body. Holding my father's hand, I descended the staircase step by step. The grand hall was lavishly decorated, and while everyone below wore smiles, their eyes betrayed a hungry curiosity for gossip. Discovering the daughter you've raised for over a decade isn't biologically yours is shocking for any family, but for the prestigious Lou family, it's a scandal of epic proportions. The rumors kept swirling, with some claiming I was my father's illegitimate child, and others insisting I was his mistress disguised as an adopted daughter. For a businessman like my father, such gossip was Unpleasant but commonplace, yet for a girl who'd just come of age, it was utterly humiliating. Countless times at important events, I'd overhear their whispers behind my back, those perfectly made-up faces wearing malicious smirks. Still, my father refused to set the record straight, all to avoid hurting Serena. "Dad, smile. Don't let them see through us," I reminded him, noticing his face had turned as dark as a burnt pot. He'd spent hours primping and preening, all to uphold the Liu family's reputation. My father forced a tight-lipped smile. I led him to the center of the crowd, and my mother tapped her glass. "Dear friends and family, we've gathered today to properly introduce our daughter Ivy. Due to certain circumstances, she's been away from us, but now that she's back, we ask for your support and care." I stepped back to let my mother bring my father forward. He stood before everyone with his head held high, strutting like a proud peacock showing off his feathers. He probably thought it was all over, unaware that Serena, lurking nearby, was watching him like a venomous snake. I shrank back into the corner, waiting to see how things would unfold. "So this is where you've been hiding, Ivy. Come with me." A man suddenly burst in from outside, grabbing my father's hand as he spoke with a menacing tone. I frowned. Serena certainly had some nerve. I couldn't believe she managed to track him down. My father was startled. He'd been avoiding Serena since last night, afraid she might do something drastic, but he never expected a man to appear out of thin air like this. "You took my money and promised to marry me, but now you're living it up here, you gold-digging slut." Seeing that no one had reacted yet, the man continued, with just a few sentences. The daughter the Liu family had just welcomed back was painted as a promiscuous woman who'd sell herself for money. The faces of those who'd been eager to curry favor moments before darkened, and the room immediately buzzed with hushed discussions. Where did this scoundrel come from? What nonsense are you spouting? My father snapped back to reality, shaking off the man's hand as he shouted, yet his gaze involuntarily shifted toward me. I knew what he was thinking. He didn't trust me, believing that my past disgraceful actions had been exposed. Serena stepped out at just the right moment. "Oh, little sister, I saw his photo on your phone last time and thought you knew him, so I let him in." She feigned surprise, but excitement gleamed in her eyes. Her words only served to confirm the relationship between me and the man. No, not only my father but even my mother subtly furrowed her brow. "That's enough, sir. Today is a joyous occasion for the Liu family. If there's anything to discuss, we can speak privately." As the matriarch of the Liu household, she stepped forward. My heart sank. It would be a lie to say I wasn't disappointed. Rather than uncovering the truth, she was more concerned with smoothing things over to save the Liu family's face. "No, Serena," and I exclaimed in unison. I refused to bear this humiliation without a clear explanation. While her motive was simpler, she didn't want me to get off so easily. "I'm currently in my father's body, and the moment I speak, all eyes are on me. Everyone is eager to see whether the CEO of Liu Corporation will publicly discipline his child or if he has some other approach." Everyone had their own thoughts. My father looked grim. My mother kept shooting me warning glances to stop making a scene. And Serena, thinking my father was about to teach me a lesson, couldn't even hide the smirk on her face. "You, Sam, 40 years old, have been imprisoned multiple times for fraud. 3 months ago, you targeted my daughter. You gained her trust under the pretense of offering her a part-time job and then extorted her. I've already reported this to the police, and they will be here for you shortly." I stepped into the center of the crowd and slammed the case filing document right in his face. "In my past life, I went through something similar. Back then, lacking life experience, I chose to let it slide, but Serena got wind of it and blew it out of proportion. No matter how hard I tried to explain, nobody believed me, so when I became my dad, the first thing I did was use his identity to call the police. People would rather trust Mr. Liu than someone with a long rap sheet. "You've been through so much," my mom said, gently holding my dad. I couldn't tell if she was speaking to me or to him, but I could tell his father's anger had already shifted from me to Serena, and I doubt she'll have an easy time when we switch back tomorrow. "Starting tomorrow, all your cards will be frozen except for essential living expenses, and forget about the car I promised you." My dad announced this over breakfast the next morning. "Dad, what did I do wrong?" Serena stared in disbelief at the man who had always doted on her. She'd always lived extravagantly, and it was that money that kept so many people fawning over her. "How dare you act like you don't know what you did wrong?" My father slammed his cup onto the floor. The shards flew up and cut Serena's face, leaving a streak of blood. She let out a sharp cry and covered her cheek, yet not one of the 3 people present was willing to comfort her. My mother calmly sipped her coffee. I stuffed bread into my mouth, and as for my father, he kept on shouting, "You put your own selfish interests above the Liu family's reputation. Don't think I don't know what you've been up to outside. That Sam, that necklace." It seemed he was truly furious. By the end, his fingertips were trembling with rage. "Dad, it wasn't me. It was all a misunderstanding." Serena tried to defend herself, but my father slapped her so hard she fell to the ground. "Let me make this clear. The fact that you're still considered an adopted daughter of the Liu family is the utmost leniency I'm showing you. If I catch you pulling any more of these stunts, you're out of here." Serena was stunned by my father's words. She never imagined that the man who had always indulged her every whim would treat her like this. She suddenly lifted her head and shot me a venomous glare. Yes, she's pushing the blame onto me again. Little does she know, my father doesn't care about what she did to me. He's concerned about the consequences her actions have brought upon the Liu family. The restaurant was left with only the sound of Serena's sobbing. Unlike her previous delicate tears, this time she was crying her eyes out, a complete mess. Dad, why did you treat Serena like that? Are you really going to throw away over a decade of our bond just because of a little blood relation? My brother stormed back that very night. He had ducked out early to avoid my debutante party and Serena's resentful gaze. Showing up at this hour, he's probably trying to play the hero and save the damsel in distress. As the only son of the Liu family, he had always considered the family's assets his personal property. His arrogance, selfishness, and special feelings for Serena made him look down on me, an outsider brought into the family. From the very beginning, in my past life, after I died, he stood over my corpse holding a fake crying Serena and coldly remarked, dying like this was too easy on her, so what do you think should have been done, brother? Serena has repeatedly set me up, not to mention dragged the Liu family's name through the mud. All Dad did was freeze her cards. She still has all her living expenses covered. This slap on the wrist has you this worked up. Seems your biological sister really can't compare to your special sister. I shot back before my father could even speak. My words were blunt, and just then Serena was trailing behind my brother, tugging at the hem of his shirt. She bit her lip lightly, tears welling in her eyes, looking both delicate and endearing. My father's sharp gaze swept over them, regardless of his own feelings towards Serena. Her background alone made her utterly unfit to be a daughter-in-law of the Liu family. Since when do you get to speak for the Liu family? My brother snapped, his face flushing with rage after I exposed his true intentions. With a loud thud, my father grabbed the inkstone from his desk and hurled it straight at my brother. And you don't get to speak for the Liu family either, my father roared. My brother clutched his forehead as blood streamed down his face. Serena was startled, but she didn't forget to keep up the act. Dad, my brother was just trying to protect me. Please don't blame him. Her words only made my father angrier. With a trembling hand pointed at her, he shouted, "You're nothing but trouble, a curse. She's the real curse here. I wish you'd never come back." My brother, too afraid to direct his anger at our father, turned his fury on me instead. I gave him a cold stare. Since my brother calls me a troublemaker, I'll show him exactly what trouble looks like. My brother and I switched places after school started. That day, after the driver dropped us off, he let Serena out first, then grabbed my collar with a fierce glare and said, "Mom and Dad might protect you at home, but if you dare lay a finger on Serena outside, you'll regret it." I hid the smile on my face and nodded obediently. Brother, I'm looking forward to seeing what you've got. Having gained no advantage at home, Serena grew even more impatient than in her previous life. On the very first day of school, she orchestrated everyone to ostracize me, so while my brother was still wallowing in the misery of having swapped bodies with me, he got the shock of his life from a dead rat in his desk drawer. "Ah," he shrieked, leaping to his feet. "Ha, if he's scared of this, he's in for a world of trouble. Who did this?" I watched from a distance as my brother demanded angrily. "He still thinks he's the crown prince of the Liu family," expecting everyone to jump at his every word. "You, how disgusting. Filthy people always attract these vermin." Serena's lackey tossed out the remark flippantly. The crowd immediately chimed in. I knew there was a weird smell, so it's coming from her, a girl being that gross. Tsk. Everyone started talking over each other, and bursts of laughter immediately erupted. My brother had never been so humiliated. Fighting back nausea, he grabbed the dead rat and hurled it into the crowd with all his might. The crowd scattered in all directions as the dead rat, flung into the air, came whistling down and landed right in front of someone. Pfft, I couldn't help but laugh, because unfortunately, that person was none other than Serena. "Serena, I didn't mean to," my brother called out weakly. Little did he know that the mastermind behind all this was his own dear sister, naively apologizing for accidentally bringing such a disgusting thing before him. Serena stared blankly at the dead mouse before her, her face ashen. She hadn't intended to take matters into her own hands so soon, but since it had come to this, she couldn't be blamed for showing no mercy. A sinister smile flickered at the corner of her lips. Then, with her head bowed, she picked up the dead rat and headed toward the trash can. Just as everyone thought she was going to help my brother, she suddenly turned around, grabbed him by the collar, and threw the rat inside his shirt. "Leaving it on your desk would have been too good for you. Someone like you deserves to live with rats," she sneered. My brother's jaw dropped as he felt the cold rat slither down his body. His scream echoed across the entire school. His comical struggle to fish the mouse out of his clothes made him even more infamous at school. "Hey bro, want me to report this to the teacher?" I asked casually, strolling past him with my hands behind my back and tilting my head. He'd been crouching in the corner the whole time, his face pale with fear and his lips trembling uncontrollably. Hearing my voice, he looked up with pure hatred in his eyes. "This is all because you hurt Serena so deeply before. That's why she became Like this, did the Liu family fall under Serena's spell or something? How come every single one of them finds a way to blame me? But since he's unwilling, I won't push him. I just hope he can handle what's coming next, just as expected. After receiving Serena's instructions, her little gang seized their chance. It started with trash thrown from above, sudden splashes of filthy water, and all sorts of vicious pranks. My brother couldn't understand how his backpack ended up filled with garbage, or why a note with what looked like bloodstains appeared on his desk. He fought back in his own way, dumping trash at the classroom door, posting notes on the blackboard, thinking it would make them stop, but clearly, he'd underestimated them. His resistance only excited those sick individuals more. They pursued him like sharks drawn to blood, trash turned into snakes, filthy water became scalding. My brother went from being covered in grime to covered in wounds, after being locked in the gym for a full day and night. My brother finally took my advice. He's no fool. He knows he could be in real danger if this keeps up. Principal, I need to report those people targeting me. I stood by the door, watching him enter the principal's office. I was just messing with him. Did he actually think tattling would work? I leaned against the wall, listening intently, just as I expected. Upon hearing my brother's report, the principal calmly stacked the documents in his hands and said, Ivy, it's natural to feel unsettled when you're new to the school, but there's no need to make a fuss over every little thing. I let out a cold laugh. Just like in my past life, he dismissed the bullying as mere troublemaking without even batting an eye. Of course, as the head of this elite academy, he's seen it all, the dark side of these privileged golden children, as the unfavored daughter of the Liu family. He couldn't be bothered as long as I didn't cause any major trouble. My brother stood there speechless. Back when he was the Liu family's crown prince, he wouldn't have given a damn about the principal, let alone the mayor. Now, to be treated like this, it was humiliating. He was so furious he couldn't speak, and after a long pause, he slammed his hand on the table with a loud thud. They're practically killing me, and you call me unreasonable, he roared, leaning halfway across the desk with bloodshot eyes. The principal was taken aback, clearly not expecting him to be so worked up. Is that any way to speak, Liu? Who taught you to address a teacher like that? He scolded my brother, furrowing his brow and putting on his principal's tone. My brother was absolutely furious by now. Rolling up his sleeves, he said, Look, just look at this. This is from scalding hot water. This is from a snake bite. And this. He pointed out each of his scars to the principal one by one. I asked you to step in and handle this, and you actually accused me of making a scene. My foot, all the grievances he had endured over the past few days, came pouring out. He thought this would earn him the principal's sympathy, but to his surprise, the principal only gave a cursory glance and said, Liu, I've heard about your past experiences. As your teacher, I'm telling you not to use these underhanded tricks to frame others. Our school has always maintained a good reputation, and I hope you won't bring any of that bad influence here. His tone was dripping with contempt, every word laced with disdain. My brother was rendered speechless by the scolding. Realizing he wouldn't get anywhere today, he gritted his teeth and started pummeling the principal. Did you know this would happen all along? My brother asked as security guards dragged him out. I just shrugged and watched his retreating figure disappear. I knew all too well. My past life had been even more wretched than his. Back then, I went to the principal's office covered in bruises, just hoping he'd stand up for justice and say a word in my defense. But not only did he refuse, he threw those very words back at me. When I tried to argue back, he slapped me with a disciplinary action, forcing me to make public self-criticisms at the daily assembly day after day. When word got back to my father, it meant another brutal beating. That incident extinguished the last flicker of hope I had for human kindness, but today I have to thank my brother for teaching that spineless bully a lesson. In return, I told our parents what happened when I got home, having suffered from Serena's behavior before. My parents teamed up to give her a piece of their mind. Seeing their precious son hurt like this upset them more than anything. My mom even issued an ultimatum. If Serena keeps this up, she'll have someone contact her biological mother. This sent Serena into a rage. She didn't even bother pretending anymore and immediately gathered a group to corner my brother in the restroom. She grabbed him by the hair and shoved his head into a toilet. You were so tough when you hit me at home. Now you're lying there like a dead dog. She slapped my brother across the face, filling his mouth with blood. My brother stared at her in disbelief, unable to reconcile the vicious person before him with the delicate princess who had been weeping in his arms just days before. Seeing my brother speechless, Serena grew even more aggressive. She filled a bucket with water, grabbed his head, and repeatedly forced it underwater. After several rounds of this, the suffocating sensation left his face deathly pale. How could you be like this? I completely misjudged you, my brother shouted angrily, but this only earned him a more brutal beating. He tried to fight back, but trapped in my frail body, he was no match for the group holding him down. After the crowd dispersed, I walked over to my brother. He was lying sprawled on the filthy floor, drained of all color, breathing laboriously through his half-open mouth. How does it feel? I looked down at him, compared to what our parents went through, he'd suffered the worst of it. Serena, my brother tried to speak, but the words caught in his throat. Two silent tears traced paths from the corners of his eyes, but the nightmare wasn't over. That evening, he was cornered again by a group of thugs at the alley's entrance. I grabbed a wooden pole from the roadside, ready to intervene. There was no way I'd stand by while my own body got violated. But suddenly a figure darted out, grabbed my brother's hand, and pulled him away in a sprint. That's Belle, my only friend from my past life. We grew up together in the orphanage and were always close. She mistook my brother for me and risked her life to save him. The thugs were about to give chase, but they stopped when I shouted from behind that the police were coming. Watching the figure running ahead, I switched back with my brother. We ran until we were out of breath, finally hiding in a secluded corner of the park. I couldn't get into the Liu residence, so I had to wait here to intercept you. I never expected things to turn out like this. Her eyes glistened, the tip of her nose flushed red from running, suppressing the ache in my heart. I embraced her tightly. In my past life, my greatest regret at death was not being able to see her one last time. Seeing me like this, Belle quickly cupped my face in her hands. Are things difficult for you at the Liu family? Have they been giving you a hard time? She asked with concern. I shook my head in denial. It's not like my current life is worse than my previous one, right? But Belle knew me too well. She clearly wasn't buying it. If you were doing fine, why were you cornered by those people? Come on, let's go file a police report, she said, standing up with a stern expression. Understanding her concern, I hesitated for a moment before telling her about my body swapping system. That night we talked for hours, and I felt a warmth I hadn't experienced in a long time. When 3 out of 4 people see through someone's true colors, there's no point in keeping up the act. Ever since my brother came back, Serena's been performing a one-woman show with no audience at home. The moment she plays the innocent victim, my parents take turns calling her out. At school, my brother, as the Liu family's young master, held more sway than her, the little princess. The moment he stood in front of me, the bullying stopped instantly. Don't worry, we'll treat you well from now on, the 3 of them told me earnestly, but I couldn't feel happy at all. Even after everything I'd been through, they never once considered giving up on Serena, who wasn't even related to us by blood. Her cards were frozen. She was grounded, scolded by my mom, and beaten by my dad, yet she still enjoyed all the privileges of being part of the Liu family. Was I not ruthless enough, or does Serena have some kind of magic? I lowered my gaze slightly, lost in thought. In that case, I'll have to pull out the big guns. That day, right after my mom left the spa, a disheveled woman in tattered clothes stopped her. She knelt before my mother, her coarse hands desperately clutching at my mother's sleeve. Mrs. Liu, I was blinded by greed back then, but please give me back my daughter. This was Serena's birth mother, Joyce. After she found us, my father not only refrained from holding her accountable but also gave her a sum of money for Serena's sake. However, he underestimated the depths of human greed. When those who've known poverty suddenly come into wealth and squander it, their craving for money only grows stronger than before. I merely mentioned how doted on Serena was in the Liu family, and she immediately started pestering Serena for money again and again. But Serena herself was barely keeping her head above water lately. How could she possibly fill that bottomless pit? After 2 attempts, she started avoiding her. With her cash cow gone, Joyce was running around in a panic. That's when I showed up just in time to point her toward a solution. Mom and Dad both adore Serena, but you are her birth mother after all. If you want to take her with you, and they don't want to lose her, maybe. Joyce looked at me with a complicated expression. She knew this was my tactic against Serena, but how could the lure of money ever compare to that pitiful shred of maternal instinct? This upscale salon charged exorbitant prices, attracting only the wealthy and elite. Though no one said a word when they saw my mother being cornered here, they all stopped to watch, clearly waiting for the drama to unfold. Seeing the crowd gather, Joyce grew even more impassioned. Madam, I was wrong, but think of old Liu. Back in the day, he worked tirelessly for the Liu family. Serena is his flesh and blood. I can't let her wander with nowhere to go. Old Liu is my father's driver. Back then, aside from being a hospital cleaner, Joyce's connection to him was another reason she managed to swap me out after she replaced me. Old Liu resigned soon after and died of illness within a few years. Over the years, Joyce remarried and had more children, completely forgetting the wrong she'd done. Now she's only after the money. My mother's face turned pale, then flushed with anger. Every word from Joyce felt like a knife stabbing at what little affection she still held for Serena. Get up first, she said through gritted teeth. The Liu family's affairs were already the talk of the town, and she didn't want to make an even bigger scene. But I wasn't about to let such a golden opportunity slip through my fingers. My eyes widened, lower lip trembling as I pleaded, Auntie, please don't take Serena away. It would break Dad and Brother's hearts. I deliberately avoided mentioning Mother, instead emphasizing how devastated Father and Brother would be. Combined with the wild rumors already circulating, even the bystanders who'd just come for the show suddenly perked up their ears. TSK, 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 sibling romance, father-son rivalry. Could this scandal get any juicier? Joyce immediately caught my drift. She stepped closer and pleaded, Ma'am, Serena is only 18, she's still so young, whatever she might have done wrong, please just give her back to me. Through her sobs and tears, she all but confirmed the nature of Serena's relationship with my father and brother. My mother turned pale, she had her suspicions about her husband and son, but as long as nothing had actually happened, she preferred to look the other way. But now, with the truth laid bare for everyone to see, she was left utterly speechless. You secretly swapped my daughter and our Lou family, out of consideration for the years we've spent with Serena, not only let it slide but even took her in as our adopted daughter. Instead of being grateful, you spread these vicious rumors. Since you want her back so badly, come pick her up tomorrow. My mother's hatred for Joyce and her disappointment in Serena's recent behavior made her blurt out those words in a fit of anger. Joyce clearly hadn't expected my mother to give in so easily. Her real goal was money. And if the Lou family actually abandoned Serena now, she'd end up with nothing. She froze for a moment, about to grab my mother and take back her words, but the security guards I'd called pinned her to the ground. She could only watch helplessly as my mother and I got into the car and drove away. Can you really not stand having her around? My mother asked me calmly in the car, having already realized it was my doing. When has she ever been able to stand me? But I didn't do this for myself, even though Dad and Brother's feelings for her have cooled. As long as she remains with the Lou family, there's no guarantee they won't develop new ideas someday. What will you do then, Mom? I turned to look at my mother. She pressed her lips together, and the usual composure on her face began to crack. Early the next morning, Serena was sent back to Joyce's place. Her tears, screams, and even threats of suicide were all in vain. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, I watched Serena being dragged away and said with a smile to the three of them, Mom, Dad, Brother, from now on we are family. From that day on, I officially became the young lady of the Lou family, while Serena, who had fallen from grace, became the target of everyone's mockery and bullying. Without me even having to say a word, all the tactics that had once been used against me were now being repaid in kind, only worse, after all. I still have the status of being a Lou family daughter, while she has nothing left now. How does garbage taste? I stepped closer to admire Serena, who had just been shoved into a trash can by several girls. Ivy, you bitch, this is all your fault. Recognizing me, Serena scrambled to her feet and lunged at me. I quickly stepped back, causing her to miss and tumble straight back down. How pathetic, but don't blame me. Mom and Dad said someone like you isn't worthy of being a Lou family daughter. I crouched down, grabbed Serena's chin, and forced her to watch the video on my phone. Inside, my father, mother, and brother sat on the sofa, meticulously listing Serena's faults. They condemned her relentlessly, blaming every wrong on her. You can't teach trash to be classy, my mother concluded. Serena's mouth hung open helplessly as tears began to fall at the scene unfolding before her. Don't you dare regret this. Mark my words. I turned and walked away, pretending not to hear her cries behind me. I never thought Serena would be allowed back into the Lou family. The day I came home, I saw her standing right there with my parents. Your father and I have discussed it. Yes, Serena made mistakes before, but she's learned her lesson. From now on, I expect you two to get along. Without giving any real explanation or a chance for me to object, my mother laid down the law. My brother kept his head down, unable to meet my eyes, while Serena wore a smug, triumphant smile. I stayed silent. Soon, it would all be over soon. Serena cornered me at the bedroom door again, this time with a knife in her hand, the blade pressed against my neck, madness blazing in Serena's eyes. Who do you want to become this time? I frowned. She knew. When I didn't answer, she pressed the blade closer, another inch, and it broke the skin. A drop of blood welled up and fell. 3 times. You only get 3 swaps, right? She laughed. How did she know? I'd only ever told Belle, no one else. Heh, for a little cash. That so-called friend of yours would even tell me how old you were when you got your first period. Serena's words sent a chill down my spine. It really was her. Seeing my distress only made Serena more smug. She released me, her laughter growing wilder. Dad, Mom, Brother, you've replaced them all. So what comes next? I drove you out of the Lou family. They didn't want you anymore, did they? I countered in a low voice. She whirled around sharply. Does it matter whether they want me or not? I came back anyway. In this family, feelings are worthless. Only what you hold in your hands counts. Let me tell you, I've known for years that I'm not a true member of the Lou family. Since then, I've been collecting little secrets. What do you think Mom and Dad would choose if they had to pick between you and these secrets that can't see the light of day? Serena's face was so close to mine, and the necklace dangling from the tip of her neck glinted, dazzling my eyes. So that's how it is. So this is why my parents have been indulging Serena over and over. Even at the cost of their own biological daughter. I was left speechless. In the Lou family, interests always come first. Serena left triumphantly, lying in bed. I was once again overwhelmed by the despair from my past life. I can help you. The voice spoke again, unlike the cold, mechanical tone before. This one was exactly the same as what I heard when I died, aged and icy. You still have one last chance to swap bodies. This time, just choose the person with the highest authority in the Lou family, and you can take it all for yourself. Then, whether it's Serena or anyone else, they'll I'll have to obey you. I clenched my fists. So my father holds the highest authority. What does it matter? I can't permanently inhabit his body, nor do I want to. Hearing my inner thoughts, the voice spoke again. The true power in the Lu family has never been your father. It's me, your grandfather. Grandfather, I do have a grandfather, but long before I returned, he was lying in a hospital bed as a vegetable. I've been watching over you all along, child. You're my own granddaughter, after finally coming home. You've endured so much hardship, I couldn't bear to see you suffer, so I became a system to stay by your side, hoping to help you mend our family bonds. But now, it's time we both face the truth, he continued. The offer was incredibly tempting. Although my father currently runs the Lu Corporation, Grandpa Blaze has always been the majority shareholder. If I could swap bodies with him, everything the Lu family owns would be mine, my child. I don't have much time left. I just want to help you one last time. After we switch bodies, you can draft a will for me, transferring all my shares in the Lu Corporation to you. He genuinely sounded like an elder looking out for me. I bit my lip. Serena already knew all my secrets. If I didn't act soon, I'd be completely at her mercy. Ivy, remember this. When the time comes, silently say my name 3 times, and I'll switch bodies with you. Make sure you have everything in order, because after this, my energy will be spent. My body, soul, and the system will all cease to exist. The voice repeated the instructions emphatically. Following my grandfather's instructions, I contacted the lawyer he trusted and held a press conference. Before stepping onto the stage, my father gritted his teeth and demanded to know what I was trying to pull, looking as if he wanted to kill me. Serena had clearly told them everything, with me no longer a threat. They reverted to their true colors. I wheeled the elderly man in his chair onto the stage. Blaze, Lu Ming. Just as the final syllable was about to leave my lips, a subtle smile curled at the corners of my mouth. System, I want to switch bodies with Serena. I murmured inwardly. Don't. The voice roared in my ear, but I paid it no mind. Possessing Serena's body, she strode to the podium, yanked the necklace from her neck, and declared, Serena hereby publicly accuse the Lu Corporation of corruption, bribery, stock manipulation, and cutting corners on shoddy construction projects that have cost lives. This USB drive contains the evidence. The moment the words were spoken, the audience erupted in an uproar. Countless camera flashes went off, and then the police filed in one after another. Everything happened so fast that my dad, my mom, and my brother had no time to react. They were taken away by the police one by one. That night, I stood by my grandfather's hospital bed. He was very old, with wrinkled, withered skin covered in brown spots. Long-term bed rest had caused his limbs to atrophy, making him appear quite gaunt and frail. Why do this? You could have had everything. Money, status. The voice spoke again, weak and feeble as if it might fade away at any moment. I tilted my head and said, oh, really? Was it me? Or was it actually you? You already know everything. This body swap is irreversible. Once I utter the final word, you'll not only permanently possess my body but also inherit the entire Lu family fortune. I merely used this opportunity to trade with the system for one body swap. It must despise how you've been latched onto it all this time. My fingers brushed against the tubes protruding from his body, and the monitors erupted in frantic beeps. Cough. So you destroyed the Lu family. Do you have any idea how much that fortune was worth? The voice grew fainter, yet it still clawed its way out in a ragged, unwilling snarl. What does it matter? Did you really think I'd want the same things you do? I let out a derisive laugh and turned to leave. I don't know when this vile spirit started clinging to me, using some shell called the system as its vessel. It's been scouring for suitable vessels to possess. That's when he set his sights on me, a lonely girl with nowhere to turn, yet still connected by blood to the Lu family. He gave me a new lease on life and hope, earning my unconditional trust. Unaware that I had already seen through the rot festering beneath the Lu family's glamorous facade, I'll admit. When I first returned to the Lu family, I genuinely sought familial affection, but gradually, I uncovered their filth, how they trampled on lives and formed shady alliances, all for the sake of money. Compared to all that, Serena's petty tricks were nothing. I saw through their hypocrisy and wanted to expose them, but I had no solid evidence. While searching for proof, I tragically fell from a high-rise building. Just when I thought it was all over, I was given a second chance at life after being reborn. I exhausted every effort searching far and wide each time I switched bodies, but found nothing. I refused to believe their actions left no trace, so I had no choice but to focus on the last person in the household, Serena. She was no innocent lily-white flower. Having long known she wasn't a true daughter of the Lu family, she should have been prepared. Yet her affection for our parents held her back from using that knowledge against them, so I orchestrated her expulsion from the Lu household, filmed the scene to extinguish her last shred of feeling for my parents, and had Belle reveal everything to her. Thinking she knew the whole story, she arrogantly came to gloat in my face, giving me the perfect opening. Behind us, monitors screeched a shrill alarm. That very night, Blaze, founder of the Liu Empire, breathed his last in the hospital. The police had been watching the Liu family for a while, and with Serena's solid evidence, my parents were officially arrested within days. Liu Corporation's stock plummeted, and the company soon declared bankruptcy, although Serena wasn't involved. The Liu family's bankruptcy stripped her of everything she had gained. She had no choice but to return to Joyce. Joyce never really wanted her back, but given how things had unfolded, she had no choice but to accept her. Yet Serena refused to drop her entitled attitude, repeatedly defying Joyce until what little mother-daughter bond remained was completely worn away. Joyce's new family had no room for her, and before long, they used her coming of age as an excuse to kick her out. To survive, Serena had to drop out of school and find work, but life wasn't done making things hard for her. Those who once clung to her for favor now became her tormentors. They treated her like a stray dog, hurling insults at will. Every cruel tactic she'd once used on others was now being repaid in full. The staggering drove her to a complete mental breakdown, leaving her utterly unhinged. I ran into her right after class. Since leaving the Liu residence, I'd returned to my old routine, juggling work and studies, living a simple yet fulfilling life. Serena crouched by the trash can, clutching the garbage she had just dug out. Her eyes were vacant as she muttered to herself. Joyce rushed over to pull her up, but Serena suddenly flailed her arms wildly and struck her. "Get away. I'm the Liu family heiress. Don't touch me." Her shots faded behind them, while ahead lay the glow of brilliant sunlight. Story 2. Elliot rescued me from the research institute and took me home. He built me a 1,000-square-meter swimming pool and delivered fresh saltwater fish daily. Under his care, my half-severed tail fin and arm miraculously regenerated. I eagerly grew legs to run and meet him, only to overhear his private conversation with his confidant Win. "Sir, Miss Lin's condition has worsened again." After a long silence, Elliot spoke. "3 more days. When her fishtail fully regrows, I'll extract her heart scale." Tears transformed into pearls that clattered against the floor. So this was his purpose all along, saving me, raising me, just to harvest my heart scale as medicine for Lynn. Later, I returned to the sea with my battered mermaid tail, while Elliot lost control and wrecked the entire villa. A flicker of pity crossed Wynn's eyes before he finally spoke after much hesitation. "But without her heart scale, Xena can never return to the ocean." Elliot lowered his gaze, remaining silent for several seconds before declaring resolutely, "Without a mermaid's heart scale as medicine, Lynn will die. As for Xena, I'll marry her and take care of her for the rest of my life." As they walked away side by side, the teardrops clinging to her lashes fell like pearls shattering on the ground. In panic, I fled back toward the pool, but my feet froze involuntarily as I passed the study. Before I could grow legs, Elliot would often carry me through the villa for strolls, yet whenever we passed the study, his steps would quicken. After a moment's hesitation, I slipped in quietly. His journal lay open on the desk, filled with pages documenting his secret crush on Lynn and all the little moments between them. Elliot's mastery of pharmacology was solely dedicated to developing a cure for Lynn's illness. Clenching my fingers, I kept turning the pages. My pupils suddenly contracted, my legs gave way, and I collapsed to the ground. To think I've been reborn. This time, I'll definitely save Lynn. I retrieved the dying little mermaid from her fate earlier this time, though she's wary now. I'll make her fall for me. Just as she said, when a mermaid falls in love with a human, they grow a heart scale. Lynn will be saved. So Elliot was actually a reincarnated soul all along. I clutched the table to steady myself as I rose, my legs trembling uncontrollably. In blind panic, I fled and plunged into the pool, curling into a ball as I sank to the bottom. My mind kept replaying every precious moment with Elliot over the years, each memory sending sharp stabs of pain through my heart. After what felt like an eternity, Elliot's voice echoed from above the pool, but I didn't want to see him right then, so I pretended to be asleep and stayed silent. The next second came a loud splash as Elliot plunged into the water. Opening my eyes, I saw him swimming toward me against the light. For a fleeting moment, it was as if we'd gone back to the day we first met. In a daze, I reached out to him. Elliot kicked harder, pulling me through the water with our hands clasped, revealing a pearl resting in my palm. "Xena, you've left the pool." His voice trembled slightly, whether from fear that I'd overheard their conversation or excitement about my nearly healed mermaid tail. I forced a weak smile. "I was just about to tell you, I can grow legs now. I just can't keep it up for long." After a few steps, the pain hit me and I had to turn back immediately. Elliot exhaled almost imperceptibly, his thumb brushing my flushed eyelid with tenderness. "I'll call the doctor to examine you." His eyes brimmed with concern, yet I couldn't tell whether it was genuine worry for me or just fear that any mishap might delay Lynn's treatment. I gently lowered his hand and shook my head. "It's just like growing pains you humans get. It'll pass if I tough it out." Elliot frowned, pondered briefly, then swam toward the shore. "I'll go prepare more seafood for you." As he turned to leave, I tugged at his sleeve and stared intently. "Elliot, do you love me?" Elliot froze, avoiding my burning gaze as he patted my head like always, still asking this. Guess I'll have to marry you sooner to put your mind at ease. My heart ached suddenly. He still hadn't given me a straight answer. Of course, we're not even the same species. Why would he ever love me? I released his sleeve and forced a smile. Just my daily rhetorical question. Don't mind me. Elliot soothed me with a kiss to my lips before turning to fetch my fish, watching his retreating figure. My smile faded as I lowered my head in quiet desolation. Even though it was all pretense and premeditation, I couldn't bring myself to hate him after all. Without him, I would have died long ago. When he stormed into the lab 5 years ago, half my mermaid tail and arm had already been severed. The filthy tank water prevented my wounds from healing, and I was nearly bleeding to death. It was Elliot who dove to the pool's depths to rescue me. Concealing my mermaid identity while bringing me back for treatment, he not only provided me with fresh seafood daily but also invested millions in developing effective medications for my injuries. Fully aware of my wariness toward humans, he patiently soothed my anxieties without complaint. Never once did he resent me. Even when I scratched him countless times, my trembling fingers traced the faint scar on the tail as I smiled bitterly. If I leave, he probably won't even grieve. In this lifetime, Elliot won't let the one he loves slip away again. After breakfast the next morning, Elliot took me out of the pool to examine my legs. His Adam's apple bobbed as he eyed my smooth legs. Mind if I check for other injuries? My heart skipped a beat as I gave a slight nod. With nervous hands, he began tracing slow paths along my thigh, his delight written all over his face. My gaze clung to those warm fingers until his repeated calls finally snapped me back to meet his eyes. Elliot frowned deeply. What's wrong? You look pale. He reached up to touch my forehead, but I instinctively flinched away. Elliot's hand froze midair as his piercing gaze locked onto me, clutching my skirt tightly. My voice trembled. Elliot, my heart hurts. As the words left my mouth, Elliot's expression darkened. Let's get you checked at the hospital. Don't worry. It's under my ownership. Your identity will remain confidential. He scooped me up and rushed out, while my heart writhed with gnawing dread. The moment Elliot brought me to the waiting area, Wing came sprinting over, drenched in sweat, his eyes locked onto me, words clearly caught in his throat. Elliot's face suddenly changed. What happened, Win? Lowered his voice. Miss Lin is vomiting again. Elliot's gaze turned to me, and my heart skipped a beat. With a troubled expression, he finally spoke. My friends had an emergency. Wait here for me. With that, he strode off briskly after Win. I watched his receding figure quietly, clutching the medical chart nervously in my hand. Having never stepped outside before, how could I possibly know how to navigate a human hospital? Taking a deep breath, I folded the medical chart neatly and tossed it into the nearby trash bin. The digital clock on the wall kept changing numbers until it hit 20:00. When Elliot rushed in, seeing me sitting quietly in the chair, he let out a sigh of relief, followed by a look of guilt. Sorry I'm late. What did the doctor say? I shook my head and tugged at his sleeve. Just couldn't sleep well. Elliot, could you take me to meet your friends? Elliot patted my head and took my hand, leading me toward Lynn's hospital room. The moment we reached the door, his grip loosened as he opened it and ushered me inside. I clenched my fists in disappointment, trying to hold on to the lingering warmth. When she saw me, surprise flickered across her face before a playful smirk curled her lips, her eyes twinkling with mischief. No wonder a workaholic like you would keep a beauty hidden away. With a girlfriend like that, I ditch work early too. The moment the words left his mouth, Elliot blurted out, "We're just friends." After speaking, his eyes instinctively darted to me with a flicker of unease. I forced a bitter smile, feeling like a chunk of my heart had been carved out. Yeah, we're just friends. That confession 3 years ago still feels vivid, yet the so-called "I'll love you forever" turned out to be empty words. The woman leaning against the headboard, though worn and weary, couldn't conceal her striking beauty. Her gentle aura stood in stark contrast to everything I was. At these words, the woman gave an embarrassed smile and extended her hand toward me. Hello, I'm Lynn. My eyes stung as I shook her hand, my voice hoarse. Hi, I'm Xena. Lynn grew visibly excited, but just as she was about to speak, a violent coughing fit seized her. Elliot hastily pushed me aside, his face tense with worry. Not another coughing spell. He gently patted Lynn's back, completely oblivious to my stumbling steps. A dull ache pulsed through my left ankle as I bit my lower lip, hiding the swollen foot behind me while watching Elliot fuss over Lynn with envious eyes. Lynn waved it off, patting her chest. Just choked on my spit. I'm fine. Elliot's brow remained furrowed as he tossed out, "I'll get the doctor." Before striding out, Lynn sighed helplessly and gave me a wry smile. He's always making a mountain out of a molehill. Sorry you had to see that. Before I could respond, Lynn was overcome by another coughing fit. My face paled as I tiptoed forward to pour her a glass of water. The moment her fingers brushed the cup, she jerked her hand back. The glass tumbled, spilling water down her front. A red mark instantly bloomed across Lynn's collarbone. "What are you doing?" Elliot's roar came from behind as he yanked my arm violently, his piercing glare burning into me. Doctors filed in behind us in quick succession. I stared at him helplessly, my heart twisting painfully. I didn't mean to. I had no idea the water was so. Can't you see the steam rising from it? Elliot wasn't listening to my explanation at all. With a dark expression, he cut me off and forcefully shoved me out the door, slamming it shut without mercy. I staggered toward the door, wanting to go inside and apologize to Lynn. From inside the room, Lynn muttered, "Why are you being so harsh? You scared Xena. She didn't know the water was that hot. No, you must apologize to her properly. I can't shake this feeling that she seems familiar. Perhaps she was my sister in a past life." Elliot pressed his lips together, irritation flashing through him, yet he still said, "You don't know about her lineage. Her family has a rather violent reputation. Never mind, you wouldn't understand anyway. Just keep your distance from her, too, just a wall away." Their conversation reached my ears. My hand, suspended midair, slowly lowered. Legend has it that mermaids enchant humans with their mesmerizing songs before ripping out and devouring their hearts. I used to think Elliot never asked me about such mermaid legends because meeting me had debunked the myths. Turns out she simply took them at face value and never bothered to dig deeper. I crouched by the doorway, hugging my knees tightly. The doctor stayed in the ward for a long time, murmuring medical terms I couldn't understand. After what felt like an eternity, Elliot pushed the door open and found me crouching outside, his eyes clouded with unreadable emotions. He reached out to pull me up, his voice trembling with suppressed emotion. "Didn't you always want to try ice cream cake? Let's get one now, shall we?" My fingers quivered slightly. I forced an excited smile. "Great, let's head back right now." Though I didn't know what illness Lynn had, the conversation made it clear she was hanging by a thread. Elliot couldn't wait to take my heart scale. The return journey was eerily quiet. Even when cutting the cake in the villa's kitchen, his movements seemed mechanical. After absent-mindedly eating 2 pieces of cake and steeling myself to speak, Elliot suddenly caught me off guard with a question. "Xena, are you feeling sleepy?" His fingers interlaced, eyes betraying uncharacteristic unease. In that dazed moment, the horrifying realization hit me. He drugged me. My heart lurched violently. The sweet cake turned out to be arsenic-laced poison. Following his words, I rubbed my eyes drowsily and slumped onto the table. I meant to tell him I'd give him my heart scale, but perhaps he feared being unable to repay the debt. Perhaps it's for the best. Only a mermaid free of obligations can return to the sea, yet I never imagined the process of removing my heart scale would be this agonizing. Merfolk naturally have dulled senses. Heat and pain are somewhat muted for us, but when Elliot carved up my heart scale, my body trembled uncontrollably. He paused, gently stroking my hair with feather-light touches, his voice a soothing murmur. "I'm sorry, Xena. It'll stop hurting soon." The movement resumed as the words faded. I clenched my teeth into my own flesh, desperately stifling any sound. With a sudden snap, my fishtail instantly transformed into human legs. Elliot snatched the heart scale and rushed off, leaving me bleeding profusely from the abdomen. Only when the footsteps faded from the hallway did I open my eyes, gathering the scattered ointment with tear-reddened eyes to tend my wounds alone. For days afterward, Elliot never returned, and every call I made to him went unanswered. I just wanted to say a proper goodbye, but now he won't even see me. After another unanswered call to Elliot, I retrieved hidden bills from the drawer, slipped past the servants, and took a cab to the shore. Night fell over the deceptively calm sea, its tranquility masking danger hiding behind the rocks. I cupped seawater in my hands and drank. My legs slowly transformed into a fishtail, watching the churning waves. I calmly plucked the scales from my fishtail. With each scale removed, Elliot's face grew fainter in my memory, and the longing in my heart diminished. When only one scale remained, I murmured to myself with eerie composure, "Though I don't know who I'm saying goodbye to, farewell." Nonetheless, without hesitation, I plucked the scale from my flesh and plunged into the raging sea, my bloodied fishtail trailing behind me. Though Lynn's test results showed stable readings, Elliot found no relief in them as he'd expected. My ashen face and trembling body during the heart scale extraction still haunted him. He'd realized mid-procedure that I wasn't fully sedated. But the die was cast. There was no turning back. After removing the heart scale, he fled in panic. The reason he's been avoiding the villa and ignoring my calls these days is simply fear. He doesn't know how to face me, nor how to explain himself. Elliot's grip on the report tightened gradually, his brow furrowing deeply. Elliot. Startled by Lynn's call, Elliot blinked groggily. "What's wrong?" Lynn gave him a troubled look. "That's my line. What's going on with you? You're completely spaced out." "Did the test results come back bad?" Elliot shook his head, lowering his gaze. "No need to worry. The test results are excellent. You'll make a full recovery soon." Lynn's eyes lit up with joy. "Really? That's wonderful. If it weren't for you, I might have." "Enough. Don't say another word." The uncharacteristic sternness in Elliot's voice startled Lynn. She stuck out her tongue sheepishly. "Got it. I'll keep my mouth shut. But why do you look like you're carrying the weight of the world? Let me guess. Is this about Xena?" Elliot's eyes flickered as he asked with feigned nonchalance, "What makes you say that? Who told you to look like a heartbroken puppy?" Well, never thought I'd see the day when hell freezes over." Lynn teased with a playful look. Elliot pointed at himself incredulously. "Me, looking heartbroken?" Lynn nodded firmly. Elliot was left speechless. As he lowered his hand, the fog in his mind seemed to gradually clear, seeing him still wrestling with his thoughts. Lynn leaned in and whispered in his ear, "Didn't I tell you before that Xena feels Strangely familiar. After my headache faded yesterday, I remembered I met her 10 years ago. She looks exactly the same as she does now. Elliot's jaw tightened as he eyed Lynn warily. Are you sure you're remembering correctly? Lynn scrunched her nose defiantly. No way. I even remember she was the one who saved you from drowning. What? Elliot's eyes widened as he shot up from his seat uncontrollably. What do you mean? Wasn't it you who saved me? Lynn rolled her eyes. I couldn't even swim back then. How could I have rescued you? Besides, Lynn glanced at the door and lowered her voice. Zena's a mermaid, right? With that sky blue tail. At those words, Elliot's mind exploded with a deafening buzz. How could Lynn, who's been hospitalized all this time, know my true identity? Did I accidentally reveal it during that private conversation in her hospital room after 5 years as a research captive? Would I really trust a stranger enough to expose myself, or did I decide to trust her completely after sensing his unusual feelings toward Lynn? Countless questions swirled in his mind, but only one thought remained crystal clear. He must never reveal his true identity. Elliot's face turned grave as he fixed Lynn with an unblinking stare. Have you told anyone else about this? If a third person learned of this, he'd move heaven and earth to silence them. Even Lynn wouldn't be spared. Elliot froze as the realization of his own thoughts struck him. Unbeknownst to me, he had already made me his top priority. He schemed to make me fall for him and grow protective scales, never realizing he'd already fallen deeper. Clutching his chest, the searing warmth dispelled the fog in his heart. He had already fallen for me. The only reason I want to cure Lynn is this obsession spanning 2 lifetimes. Realizing this, Elliot felt both shock and joy, only to hear Lynn say the next moment, absolutely not. This is sensational news. Of course I wouldn't jeopardize her safety by revealing it. Seeing her unharmed finally let me breathe a sigh of relief. When I was little, I told Dad I saw a mermaid. Turns out he never believed me. In that instant, Elliot froze in place. Now he understood why my past self had been so terrified upon seeing Lynn's father's photo on his phone. So it was Lynn who'd been the source of my 5-year-long torment. Elliot's throat went dry. The thought of all I'd endured and how he'd deceived me wrenched my heart. Right then, it was time for Wynn to report my status to him. The moment the call connected, the frantic voice on the other end blurted out, "Sir, Zena's gone." After returning to the villa, Elliot searched every corner but couldn't find any trace of me. Glaring at the trembling servants with their heads bowed, he smashed the entire living room in fury. Can't even keep track of one person. Are your eyes just for decoration? Only silence answered him in disbelief. He plunged into the pool with an oxygen tank. The 1,000 square meter, 5-meter deep pool made him pray I was just hiding there angrily. Yet after nearly 2 hours of frantic searching underwater, he found no trace of me. A nearly exhausted Elliot was forcibly hauled to the surface by Wynn. He gazed into Elliot's bloodshot eyes with unreadable emotions. With a sigh, he finally told Elliot, after learning Zena was missing, "I've already sent someone to pull the surveillance footage." 3. Zena did leave the villa alone. We've tracked the vehicle. It's headed to the beach. At the word beach, Elliot's dazed body stiffened momentarily. Before rasping with a strained voice, "Get the car ready, we leave now." A day has passed since I left. Elliot dares not wonder if I've truly made up my mind to leave, yet having grown heart scales for him across 2 lifetimes, would I stay for him again? And without my heart scales, how could I ever return to the ocean? Elliot pressed a hand against his pounding heart, eyes locked on the shifting landscape. He'll find me for sure soon. He arrived at the beach with a squad of bodyguards to clear the area. The dejected little girl shuffled away clutching her blue fragment, only to be seized by Elliot. "What are you holding in your hand?" Elliot clenched the blue scale in his hand and followed the little girl's directions to a stretch of beach. The fine sand shimmered with a blue reflection. He crouched down, his hands trembling as he picked up the scale from the sand, with his hands no longer able to hold another scale. Elliot finally reached the reef. One glance was all it took. His legs gave way, sending him crumpling to the ground. Elliot's voice trembled as he muttered, "This can't be. It's impossible." On the reef lay a long-dried pool of blood. Elliot scrambled onto the scorching reef, the scattered blue scales around him shattering his last shred of denial. Wynn's blood ran cold when she arrived to find Elliot looking utterly broken, shirtless. Elliot was carefully gathering each scale with trembling hands. Only after collecting every last scale did he rasp out an order, "Pull the surveillance footage from this area. No third parties must know." Back at the hotel, Elliot filled the bathtub with water and poured all the scales in, and watching the scales drift in the water, he seemed to see me swimming freely with my fishtail in the pool. A smile crept into his eyes as Elliot reached out to touch them. The next moment, the scattered scales pierced his heart like arrows. He pulled a pearl from his pocket, one he'd picked up in the villa's hallway. Only after I vanished did he realize with a start that I might have overheard his conversation with Wynn. Elliot pressed a grief-stricken, reverent kiss upon the pearl. "Zena, I will find you no matter what." Half a day later, Wynn returned with a grave expression, telling Elliot to brace himself. Elliot clutched his phone, hesitating to tap the video, before finally opening it with trembling fingers. The footage was grainy, but the light reflecting off my scales still made my movements clearly visible. Watching me forcibly tear off scale After scale, Elliot could no longer hold back his tears. Xena, she must be in so much pain. He was the one who drove her to self-harm without hesitation. Elliot completely broke down, sobbing uncontrollably as he weakly pounded the floor, unable to utter a sound. A suffocating sensation overwhelmed his entire body, leaving him gasping for air uncontrollably. The moment he saw me dive into the sea with my bloodied mermaid tail, Elliot's world spun violently before he collapsed unconscious. 2 months have passed since I returned to the ocean, and my bare tail has regrown its shimmering scales. I can finally leave my shell bed to patrol my domain. The little fish told me about some hulking creature lurking near the surface, making terrible mechanical noises. I had to investigate. As I neared the surface, there it was, a giant metal beast. I knew it was a human cruise ship, but unlike its usual noisy self with blaring music. The ship was eerily quiet tonight. I could hear every word spoken by the humans on deck with perfect clarity. Elliot, aren't you coming back? A woman's voice came through that thing called a phone. The man took deep drags from the cigarette dangling from his lips before choking on the smoke. After a fit of violent coughing, he finally spoke in a slow, ethereal voice tinged with sorrow. I'll decide after I find her. If she doesn't wish to return, then neither shall I. I surfaced quietly, lifting my gaze to the man called Elliot, tall and well-built, with striking features. The dark circles beneath his eyes betrayed his exhaustion. I was genuinely taken aback by his striking appearance at first glance. What a shame he's such a player, only putting on the lovesick act after losing someone who truly cared. But this fairy can't just keep drifting around aimlessly forever. I dove underwater, mimicking whale sonar to repeatedly transmit a single phrase. Before long, Elliot was seen hastily leaving the deck. I swam deeper with utter contentment. Meanwhile, on the ferry, Elliot wept tears of joy while clutching a piece of paper. A single sentence was written on it. Leave this place, you wicked humans. The captain deciphered this from cetacean sonar waves, believing it to be Poseidon's warning, yet Elliot remained convinced these were my words to him, both in this life and the last. That's how I addressed him when he first saved me. Only after prolonged companionship did I gradually shed reservations to call him by name. Heartbroken by him, I finally resorted to the cruelest words I could muster to drive him away. Elliot wiped away his tears, solemnly tucked the note into his pocket, and declared with grave determination, from this moment onward, replicate the previous transmission to repeatedly send one message: Xena, come see me. The captain hesitated briefly, but upon seeing the transferred sum, gritted his teeth and complied. Hearing those words from miles away, I immediately halted my swim. Why is a human calling my name? Accident, or do they actually? No, biting my finger in hesitation, I decided to follow the sound waves to investigate. To my surprise, I saw the ferry again. That man named Elliot was desperately calling for me from the deck. Xena, Xena, I know you're here. Please come out and see me. I was wrong. I couldn't see my own heart clearly before, but I love you. Please give me a chance to make it right. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you. Please don't leave me. Give me one more chance. I promise to love you the way you deserve. As he spoke, Elliot collapsed to his knees, weeping uncontrollably. I was just slightly surprised, feeling completely unruffled inside. So it turns out he was looking for me all along. Pity I can't recall who he was at all, yet I'm also curious. How exactly did we meet in the first place? Why does he seem so deeply infatuated with me? But when I recall how I was forced back to the sea, an inexplicable rage flares up inside me. To drive me to such desperation, he must have done something unforgivable. Remembering those living hell days trapped in the research institute, my heart gradually turned to stone. This time, I won't be fooled again. Even if another human falls overboard, I won't lift a finger to save them. I turned and dove into the ocean depths, leaving these waters behind. Elliot drifted at sea for nearly a year before reluctantly returning to land when supplies ran dangerously low. When Lynn saw Elliot again, her eyes welled up with tears before she realized it. The man's hair had turned completely white, with sunken eyes and a gaunt frame, his gaze brimming with sorrow. Gone was the noble elegance he once possessed. Elliot knew his current appearance was rather unsightly, yet he merely offered a faint smile. Lynn quickly wiped the tears from the corner of her eye and forced a casual tone. Long time no see. How about dinner tonight? But Elliot shook his head. Not tonight. I need to decorate the pool properly, or Xena won't be happy when she returns. At the thought of me, Elliot's lips briefly curled into a faint smile before fading. Watching his shifting expressions, Lynn felt her heart clench painfully. She'd always known Elliot was a stubborn man. Once he wanted to cure her illness, now he's determined to find me. After her recovery, Elliot practically severed all ties with her. His gaze turned from tender to icy, even sabotaging her father's company behind the scenes. Even when she pleaded for mercy, he remained unmoved. And the Lynn family went bankrupt within a year. It wasn't until the illegal research facility operated by the Lynn family was exposed that she finally understood why Elliot had been relentlessly crushing her family. It was for me. He was avenging me. She dared not dwell on what I'd been through, nor beg for Elliot's forgiveness, only painstakingly maintained this fraying bond between us. Now, the time has come to end it all. Lynn fished a wedding invitation from her bag and handed it to Elliot. I'm getting married soon. Hope you can make it. But Elliot didn't even glance at it, with mechanical indifference. He muttered congratulations and turned to leave. Lynn's smile froze, then she quickly composed herself, stopping Elliot to thrust a bracelet into his hands. This is my gift for Xena, don't refuse it. I hope you find Xena soon, Elliot. I won't contact you anymore. Take care of yourself. With that, Lynn covered her face and hurried away. Elliot simply stared blankly at the bracelet in his hand. The sky blue Xena bracelet shimmered like my mermaid's tail. After spending a month decorating the villa's pool, Elliot gathered supplies and returned to the sea. This time he didn't bring wind, steering a medium-sized vessel alone into the heart of the ocean. Yet within 3 days, a tempest raged across the waters, swallowing both ship and man beneath the waves. At first Elliot thrashed violently, but in his drowning moments, the truth of his rebirth flashed through his mind. In my past life, after discovering photos of Lynn's father on his phone, I became desperate to escape him. Seeing my life was slipping away, Elliot finally relented and took me back to the ocean. At our parting, I confessed my feelings and asked about his relationship with Lynn's father, but Elliot was utterly broken at that time, so of course he didn't respond to either my question or my affection. Heartbroken, I swam away. The next moment, a sudden splash sounded behind me as Elliot leaped into the sea intending to end his life. After rescuing him back onto the boat and learning he'd lost his beloved, I plucked off my heart scale and handed it to him. The sea god will grant you one chance if you pray with true devotion, but never attempt to alter another's fate, lest you pay an equal price. The last sight he had of me was my lifeless body falling with closed eyes. Elliot stopped struggling, letting his body sink into the ocean depths. Just as I had in my past life, Elliot placed a hand over his heart, where pain mingled with quiet acceptance. He whispered silently in his heart, "Goodbye, Xena, I love you. Xena, if this is the price for your survival, I'll gladly pay it." Meanwhile in another sea, I was devouring fish with gusto. The next second, a sharp pain pierced my heart as a pearl slid from the corner of my eye. Gazing at the pearl resting in my palm, I felt a hollow void in my chest, but soon this feeling vanished without a trace. Without hesitation, I tossed the pearl aside and swam back to the waters where I was raised. As I gazed at the wondrous beauty of the underwater scenery, my heart gradually found peace. Mermaids are forever free. Mermaids belong to the sea. Story 2. This year's weather has been abnormally hot even in the capital. Temperatures soared above 40 degrees Celsius, with ground temperatures reaching a scorching 60 to 70 degrees Celsius. Sensing something was amiss, I hurried back to my hometown. Unexpectedly, after returning home, the temperatures continued to rise, and it seemed like the end of days brought on by the intense heat had quietly begun. I drove my car into the garage, and when I came out, even the usually cool underground garage was unbearably stuffy. Just the short elevator ride to my floor had me sweating profusely. Once home, I quickly took a hot shower and then lay comfortably on the couch with the air conditioning turned up, munching on ice cream. That's when my mom called. "Stella, have you finished work? The weather report says it's over 40 degrees where you are. Come straight home after work, don't go anywhere else," she advised. "Mom, No, I won't go out, don't worry, that's good. You hate the heat, don't get heat stroke. By the way, your dad has cleaned up the hilltop and the air raid shelter. Why don't you come and see? The fruits are ripe, and we've got them all gathered, waiting for you and Finn to come back and enjoy." My mom's words made me crave for home. Our family lives in the mountains where it's usually cool. A few years ago, my parents leased the entire hill behind our house and planted various fruit trees. The trees have matured over the years, and we always have more fruit than we can eat. I go back every year to enjoy them, but this year, I couldn't. Thinking about the workload for the next few days, I made an excuse. "Mom, I wish I could come, but I can't right now. I'm swamped with overtime. I'll visit as soon as I get a break." My mom sounded clearly disappointed. "All right then, focus on your work, but come home soon. Your dad and I are waiting." "Okay, got it." After hanging up, I didn't lie down again. I opened my laptop and started revising the project proposal. The project was urgent, and we were short-staffed, so overtime was the only option. Fortunately, it was almost finished. Once this project was signed off, I planned to take my annual leave too. After about half a month of intense work, I hastily arranged for some time off once the contract was signed. Having been almost non-stop for half a month, I was nearly at my breaking point. Thankfully, my manager was understanding and granted me a week off. After work, I immediately headed home. While driving past the supermarket, I remembered we were low on groceries, so I decided to stop by. It was the afternoon, and there were quite a few people at the supermarket entrance. I overheard their conversations. "Oh, this heat is unbearable," someone lamented. "Exactly, my air conditioner has been running nonstop. I dare not turn it off, even a minute without it, and I'm drenched in sweat," another added. "You know my air conditioner, right? It was just installed last year and it's already broken." The repairman said there was a problem with some part because I had it on for too long. He said the air conditioner needs a break. Can you believe it? Even the air conditioner can break down from overuse. Indeed, this weather, who can stand it without air conditioning? We have to turn it on when necessary. Exactly, people could literally die from the heat. It's okay if it gets expensive. If it breaks we can just replace it. Listening to them talk about air conditioners reminded me that the one in my bedroom was broken too, so I quickly scheduled a technician to come and fix it. The air conditioner had been broken for a while, but I hadn't gotten around to having it repaired. Now that I had some free time, I decided to just get it done. Living alone, I usually cook for myself, thinking I might not go out for a week. I bought groceries enough for the duration. I picked up some meat, fruits, and ready-to-eat foods as well. If I didn't feel like cooking, it would be a good change of flavor. While passing by the chilled drink section, I also grabbed a few cases of beverages. I asked a supermarket employee to help load everything into my car trunk, and then I hurried home. In the evening, lying in bed, I scrolled through videos, many of which were about the current heatwave. There were videos of eggs frying on the ground, water evaporating instantly when thrown, and even items spontaneously combusting in cars, causing explosions, all kinds of stuff. These videos all conveyed one message: the weather this year is really hot. Thinking about it, I ordered some more groceries online just to be safe. After doing all this, I quickly had my dinner and went to rest. The technician arrived quickly, drenched in sweat from the heat. As he entered, I hurriedly invited him in, gave him a glass of water, and let him wash up. The technician didn't refuse, and after resting a bit, he commented, "It's really hot these days. I just climbed the stairs and my shirt is soaked." Yes. "Please take care of yourself and don't get a heat stroke." All right, I'll check the air conditioner first. After examining it, he said the cooling system was broken. About 15 minutes later, he had fixed the air conditioner and adjusted it. I paid him and saw him out. In the afternoon, my brother Finn suddenly showed up. His face was beet red from the heat, and as soon as he entered, he dashed to the fridge to grab a drink. After gulping down half a bottle, he collapsed on the floor. Thank God for soda saving my life. Much better now. Seeing his suitcase at the door, I asked, "What's with all the stuff? Are you on vacation? Drinking more?" He replied dramatically, "Exactly. I'm on vacation now. Sis, you don't know how crazy the weather is. Our classroom was so hot. Even with the air conditioning it was useless. Some classmates even got heat stroke. The dorms are like steam rooms." I felt like I was on a teppanyaki grill, flipping from one side to another. It was miserable. Sis, can you believe it? The boiler in our school's utility room exploded. That's a boiler, so they just gave us a break since there weren't many days left anyway. I frowned at his exaggerated tone. Was it really that hot? His school wasn't in the city center. It shouldn't be that hot. After resting enough, Finn suddenly came up to me all excited. "Sis, did you watch the news? It's this hot all over the world. In tropical countries, many people have already died from the heat. Some of us in the dorm were secretly saying, could this be the end of the world, like those high-temperature apocalyptic scenarios in movies?" I smacked him lightly on the head. "All you ever talk about is nonsense. Cut down on those apocalyptic novels, will you? What are you filling your head with? How could there be an apocalypse?" All right, go rest in your room." Finn sulked and rubbing his head, went to his room. I walked to the window and looked outside. It was almost 6 o'clock now. Outside, the sun is still blazing fiercely. The temperature is excessively high. From an aerial view, the buildings on the ground appear distorted. I checked the temperature on my phone, 41 degrees Celsius, but outside, it doesn't feel like just 41 degrees. I estimate it has already surpassed 45 degrees. In such scorching heat, forget about shopping. Even picking up a parcel downstairs makes you sweat profusely. Sitting inside the building, I feel hot. The workers laboring at heights must be feeling even hotter. I quickly called my mom. "Mom, how is it over there? Is it hot?" "It's okay, just over 30 degrees. I breathed a sigh of relief. "That's good. You and Dad shouldn't go out to the fields. Rest at home during noon and don't go outside. It's not as severe as you say. We were still wearing shirts in the morning." "Stella, how is it over there?" "Mom saw on the news, many people there suffered from heat stroke. You must be careful. Buy some herbal drinks to keep on hand in case you feel unwell. Rest if you feel bad." "I know. I'm resting these days." That's good. "Oh, Stella, did Finn come over to your place?" "Let him rest for a few days, then he can come back. Nowhere is as comfortable as home." "I got it. I'll talk to him in a bit." Mom gave a few more instructions before hanging up. In the following days, the weather remained intensely hot, and the daily temperatures consistently exceeded 45 degrees. The municipal government issued a notice, canceling all high-altitude work, and adjusted the work hours for public institutions. With schools on holiday, there was a mass exodus from the capital. Train stations, high-speed rail stations, bus stations, and airports were all packed. Tickets out of the city were nearly impossible to find. The railway department added more than a dozen trains, but it was still overcrowded. I heard that due to the heat, the air conditioning in the waiting halls couldn't cope, turning the entire area into a steam room. My younger brother had planned to return these days but had to postpone his trip, waiting for the crowd to thin. Unexpectedly, the temperature soared even higher, prompting even more people to flee the capital. Early one morning, I was awakened by a thunderous knocking at the door. Opening it, my brother, panic-stricken, shoved his phone in my face. "Sis, there's a big problem. It's 50 degrees outside. The government has issued an order to halt all work and production. If it continues like this, who knows how hot it will get." Sis, should we go back? It's not this hot at home. After a barrage of words from my brother, I finally caught on and took his phone to look. Indeed, the news anchor was advising everyone to avoid going out unless absolutely necessary. The sudden onset of extreme weather was unsettling, and everyone was advised to stay calm and await further instructions. I jumped out of bed and pulled open the curtains, only to be driven back by the blast of heat. It was unbearably hot, living in a high-rise. My windows are double-glazed, soundproofed, and insulated, but now, standing by the window, I could still feel the heat from outside. You can imagine just how hot it was outside. I glanced down at the park below our building. By just after 8 in the morning, it was already deserted. A sense of panic unreasonably surged in my heart, and I quickly opened our Instagram group there. The manager had posted a notice for working from home. The group chat was buzzing with various comments. Some were complaining, others were thrilled, and a few even wished it were hotter. I turned to look at my brother. Go check out some videos to see what's happening on the highway. There's no point in thinking about taking the train. We'll drive back. My brother quickly nodded and started browsing on his phone. I went to the living room to pack the essentials. Water was a must. With the weather this hot, we absolutely couldn't go without it. Chilled would be best. I hurriedly stuffed all the bottled water and drinks I had bought a couple of days ago into the freezer, worried that it might not be enough. I froze a big bucket of ice cubes. Luckily, the freezer was large enough, otherwise, it wouldn't all fit. I went to the guest room, took out the car fridge we had bought earlier, and charged its battery. It's always good to have extra power in case something happens on the road. After getting all this ready, I moved the eatable fruits and quick meals from the fridge to the table, just as I was thinking about what else to take. My brother came running out shouting, "We can't leave now. The highway is completely jammed. It seems there was a car accident, and even ambulances can't get through. The traffic has backed up to the highway entrance. What do we do? If we can't get on the highway, how will we get back?" My brother was so anxious that he started to sweat. I took out my phone to check the route and decisively said, "Let's take the back roads. Even if we manage to get on the highway, it might not be smooth sailing. If we run into another traffic jam, we really won't be able to get back." "Okay, I'll go pack." My brother ran back to his room. Just then, my mom called. My heart jumped, and I hastily answered. My mom's anxious voice came through. "Stella, you need to come back now. It's too hot there. Many people are fleeing. Come back. It's cooler at home." I quickly reassured her. "Mom, I know. I'm packing. And we'll leave tomorrow morning." I faintly heard my dad saying it wasn't okay, and in a flash, he took over the phone. "Stella, come back now. Don't wait. I feel something bad is about to happen with this weather. Grab water, food, everything you need, and get out of the city. Stop by a gas station to buy a few cans of fuel, and take the back roads. You get out of the city first. Dad will help you with the route. See how you can get out faster. Go now." My dad became more agitated as he spoke, and his tone grew more serious. My heart raced, and I quickly called my brother over. "Finn, stop packing. Just grab 2 sets of clothes. Listen to me. Take the keys and go downstairs. Move all these things to the car. We need to leave now. Hurry." My brother looked confused, but seeing the urgency in my expression, he grasped the gravity of the situation, grabbed the keys, and dashed out the door. While he was moving stuff, I quickly ran to the bedroom, grabbed the charging cables and power banks, and on second thought, I also took out an old Nokia phone from years ago. With food and drinks already packed, I went to the storeroom for a few large drums and grabbed some high-powered flashlights. Lastly, I went to the living room with a crowbar and a cleaver, items my dad had bought during his last visit. He said it was safer for me, a girl living alone, to have these things prepared. I wasn't sure if we'd need them, but they didn't take up much space, so I decided to bring them just in case. My brother was quick. He had already made one trip to bring things up. Seeing the old Nokia next to the power bank, he laughed. "Why are you bringing this antique? Isn't a smartphone more convenient?" "I just grabbed it as a precaution. We might not even need it." "All right, let's go. Stop beating around the bush. How's it outside?" "It's hot. Extremely hot. Look at the sweat on me. It hasn't stopped since I got back." "It's hot inside the car too. The underground garage was empty." I nodded and pointed at the buckets. "Let's move these downstairs. Let's hurry up." My brother picked up the buckets and headed out the door. I followed him to the elevator. Normally, the elevator is cool, but today it feels like an oven, sweat streaming down my forehead. It took us 2 trips to finally move everything. I locked the door and the security gate, then pulled my brother downstairs. The car took forever to start because of the heat. When it finally did, the air conditioning wasn't cold enough. I couldn't bother about that anymore. I just needed to get out of the garage. Just like I told my brother, the entire underground garage was deserted. With the weather this hot, everyone must be staying indoors. When we reached the surface, I felt the car vibrate. My brother cursed from the passenger seat. "Damn this hellish weather. It's almost cooking us alive. Enough complaining. Check the route Dad sent. Let's figure out how to get out of the city." "Okay." My brother wiped his sweat and started checking the phone. Once we left the residential area, the roads became busier. While driving, I kept an eye on the stores along the way. When we passed the supermarket we usually go to, I was surprised to find it open with people inside. I quickly parked the car and took my brother to the supermarket. It was a warehouse-style supermarket, and despite the heat, it was staffed. As we entered, everyone was red-faced and hastily grabbing items. We didn't linger, quickly pushing the cart to shop. The water in the trunk definitely wasn't enough, so I had my brother grab 10 more cases. We also picked up several boxes of instant noodles and bread. As for other miscellaneous items, we grabbed some of those too. At the checkout, the cashier was scanning items and wiping sweat. "It's so hot, and your supermarket is still open. I thought you would have closed." The cashier replied, "Well, busy. We had no choice. The heat would spoil the goods if we closed." We did close for a couple of days, but people kept calling wanting to buy things. So the boss decided to open. "It's hot, but people still need to eat, right?" I nodded in agreement. Indeed, nowadays shopping is convenient, and most people buy their groceries as needed. Who knows how long this heat will last, so it's good to stock up while the supermarket is open. After paying, my brother and I loaded the groceries into the car and hit the road again. We bought quite a lot, and the back seat was filled up. Luckily, it's a 7-seater van, or it wouldn't have all fit. Following my dad's directions, we drove towards the highway. Despite the heat, the highway was crowded, moving at a snail's pace with constant honking. I took a small road beside the highway to bypass the traffic, but it was jammed too. We had no choice but to stop and wait. I turned the air conditioning to max, but it still felt like an oven inside. I cracked open a bottle of water and guzzled half of it in one go. My brother was holding a towel chilled with ice water, and I draped it over my head. Immediately, a wave of coolness swept over me and I sighed in relief. "Much better. Make sure you keep cool too. Don't get heat stroke," I advised him. He nodded and pressed the chilled bottle against his face. After waiting for another 10 or so minutes, the traffic finally started moving. Following the GPS, I was driving when suddenly my brother yelled, "Sis, turn left, quick." My hands reacted faster than my brain, and I swiftly veered the car to the left. Almost simultaneously, there was a loud bang as something collided. Looking through the rearview mirror, I saw a semi-truck had crashed into a car. The car tumbled over and plunged into a nearby reservoir. Stammering, my brother said, If you had been a second slower, that would have been us flying out there." "I'll call the police," I said, still shaken. The road was a rural one and it was fairly crowded. Considering there was still time, I decided to pull over and we got out of the car. It seemed to have gotten even hotter. The sun was scorching, burning my face, but I didn't Karen ran towards the reservoir, probably due to the heat. The water level was low. The car had hit the reservoir wall, sending up plumes of thick smoke. I quickly sent my brother to fetch a crowbar from our car to help rescue the people. After struggling for about 15 minutes, we finally pried the car door open and helped the occupant out, then walked them to the roadside. There was only one person in the car, who had suffered cuts from the glass but was still conscious. Soon, the police arrived. We explained what happened and hurried back to our car. This whole ordeal had set us back by half an hour. My brother checked the route, and we continued on our way. Just then, my mom called, sounding frantic. "Stella, are you guys okay?" I was puzzled. "Yeah, we just left the city. Where are you now?" I gave her our location. She seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. "That's good. Listen, there was an explosion at a gas station in the next town over. Many people died. It's just been reported." "Oh, it was terrifying. Maybe you should take a different route. Be safe." After hanging up, my brother stared at me in disbelief. "Sis, we just dodged another bullet," he said. I pressed my lips together, saying nothing. Originally, I had planned to refuel at that gas station, but delayed by the accident. We were behind schedule. Had it not been for the accident, we would have been there when the explosion occurred. Thinking about the magnitude of the explosion was chilling. I took another swig of water. The car was stifling, the kind of heat that soaks your back with sweat, yet I felt cold. We hadn't been on the road long and had already encountered 2 dangerous incidents. Could we really make it home safely on the road? My brother stumbled upon a video of the gas station explosion and watched it in silence. I glanced over briefly. The scene was gruesome. Flames shot into the sky, turning it blood red, with people screaming everywhere and ambulances wailing. Bloodstains were visible everywhere on the ground. I didn't dare look any longer and quickly left the scene. As dusk fell, we found a spot on the roadside to park our car, ate some self-heating rice meals, changed clothes, and continued on our journey. My brother drove that night. The visibility was low, and he drove slowly. We still had the air conditioning on in the car. It couldn't be helped. The weather was still very hot. Our freshly changed clothes were soaked through within minutes, so we just kept drinking a lot of water. Fortunately, nothing happened on the road. As dawn approached, we pulled over and dozed off in the car seats for a few hours. Our hometown was still hundreds of kilometers away. Without some rest, we simply couldn't have made it back. By the next afternoon, we finally left the capital city and reached the next town. Things were noticeably better here. I checked the temperature on my phone. It was just over 40 degrees. That was a lot cooler compared to the capital, since We were on a national highway. There were several gas stations along the way. We filled up our several large fuel containers, had the car serviced, and bought some spare tires. That evening, we set off again, probably because we were getting further from the capital. The weather wasn't as hot. The air conditioning in the car finally seemed to be making a difference. My brother let out a sigh of relief. It's finally cooler, sis. Can you check how things are back in the capital? I opened my phone and went straight to the weather forecast. The screen showed several high temperature warnings. The red exclamation marks were startling. I glanced at the temperature and broke out in a cold sweat. The capital was now at 70 degrees. How could this be? 70 degrees? How is one supposed to survive this? I quickly opened our work chat group. The messages were no longer complaints but sheer panic. Damn, my air conditioner broke. It's deadly hot at home. Does anyone know where to buy one? I'll pay triple. Emergency, who still has water? I'll drive over to get it. Our home's been without water for days. I'm going to die from the heat. Does anyone have any cooling medicine? This isn't just a heat wave. It's like the end of the world. How can it be this hot? Even Africa doesn't reach these temperatures. I don't want to die. I want to live. I need to get out of the city. I want to go home. The messages that followed were all cries of despair. I felt anxious just reading them and decided to leave the work group. Once again, I was thankful for my father's foresight. Had he not urged us to leave quickly, considering the current traffic conditions in the capital, we would probably still be stuck on the road. With temperatures reaching 70 degrees, it could get up to 80 or even higher inside a car, leading to dehydration or unconsciousness. It was terrifying. On the fourth day of our travel, the temperature took a sudden and steep rise. It wasn't just the capital, other provinces were also experiencing high temperatures. We were affected too. The temperature outside the car soared abruptly to 50 degrees, turning the car into a sauna. We dared not stop, continuously driving towards home. My brother kept refreshing the news. Sis, it's high temperatures everywhere now. In some places people have started fighting over water, and there have even been deaths. We need to be careful not to attract unwanted attention. I nodded in agreement. Finn, I'm going to pull over soon. When I do, you need to tidy up the stuff in the back seat and make sure everything is covered, especially the water. Don't let it show at all. My brother nodded solemnly. It's not that I'm overly cautious, but drinking water has become scarce, and if we run into trouble, there'd be no escaping. Thinking ahead, I grabbed the iron rod and the bone-chopping knife. Take out the iron rod and keep the bone-chopping knife within reach, just in case. Got it. We proceeded with extra caution. My brother, gripping the iron rod, sat alert in the back seat. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the car shook violently before coming to an uncontrollable stop. I glanced at the dashboard and my face fell. The tire had burst. Sis, I'll go check it out. You wait here. As my brother was about to get out, I stopped him. Hold on, wait a bit. I scanned our surroundings. No one was in sight. It was getting dark, and for safety, I handed him the iron rod. My brother quickly stepped up to check the tires while I jumped to the back seat and pulled out the spare tire from under the seat. Just as I was about to get out, the car shook violently again. My brother, panic-stricken, jumped back into the car and quickly locked the doors. Sis, we're being watched. I quickly looked towards the rear and saw several bare-chested men approaching, carrying weapons. I tensed up immediately. I watched as one of the men bent down to pick something up and then threw it away. My brother cursed. Damn, it's a roadblock. They must have put it there. How else would the tire have burst? Damn our luck, running into this gang. Soon, they surrounded the car and began pounding on it. Bang, bang, bang. The car shook with each hit, and the dull thuds felt like they were striking my heart. I instinctively gripped the iron rod next to me. Finn, are you sure you can handle this? My brother felt the rod and licked his lips. 3, I can take on 3 at most. Okay, I'll handle the other 2. I grabbed the bone-chopping knife, holding it tightly in my hand. The knife was heavy, but for me, it was the best weapon. The men outside continued to curse, and the car kept shaking. I took a few deep breaths and rolled down the window. Soon, someone came closer. They were about to force the door open, but seeing only 2 people inside, they laughed. Damn, just 2 people made us bring this whole crowd. Hey, little sister, where are you headed? Let your big brother keep you company. I hid the knife by my side. What do you want to do? Don't kill me. You can take whatever you want. The man chuckled, playing with a stick in his hand. Sister, why would I kill you? Come on, get out, and I won't take your stuff. I moved back. Really. Hearing this, I lowered my head and glanced at my brother, who nodded almost imperceptibly. I spoke again. You, stay back a little. All right. Boys, step back a bit. Give the lady some room. Not many sensible girls like her around these days. As they joked and stepped back, I looked outside, hid the knife behind me, and got out of the car, guessing that I was coming out. Someone dropped their stick. He was walking this way. Idiot. I cursed and charged at him. He didn't see it coming and I slashed his arm, blood gushing out. Damn it, bitch. He finally realized what was happening, but it was too late. Finn lunged forward and struck him in the stomach with a stick. A few others, armed with sticks, charged at us. Worried about Finn getting hurt, I quickly grabbed a knife and ran over. Eventually, We overpowered the group, leaving them lying on the ground. Both Finn's arms and face were bruised and swollen. I also took a hit to the back, but compared to those on the ground, I was in much better shape. Without pausing to rest, I hurriedly told my brother to change the tire. I stood guard with the knife. Finn worked quickly, and the tire was changed in minutes. We didn't dare linger and immediately drove away. Just as we were a few hundred meters away, a group suddenly appeared behind us. I guess they were associates of the men we had encountered. I floored the accelerator. Luckily, they didn't catch up, and we successfully escaped, but I didn't dare stop and drove on for another hour before pulling over at the roadside. Once the tension eased, I felt the pain in my back and the ache in my arms. I leaned against the car seat, shaking my arms. Finn handed me a bottle of water. "Sis, rest, I'll drive." Looking at the swelling on his face, I asked, "How are you? Nothing serious, right?" He rolled the bottle across his face, hissing in pain. It's okay, I can manage. Those guys were just thugs. They look scary but aren't very strong. I wouldn't have beaten them otherwise. Ouch. When I get back, I need to brag to Dad about taking on 5 by myself. I slapped him playfully. Stop bragging. If you couldn't even handle some thugs, Dad would whip you. Since childhood, you've only been good at talking. Come on, eat some bread and let's get moving. We can't afford another encounter like this. My brother nodded and quickly found some bread under the seat. After resting for just a few minutes, we hurriedly continued our journey. However, the temperature was set to drop a few degrees by night, at least not scorching hot anymore. Day 7 on the road, we finally reached the vicinity of our hometown. The past few days, every region was experiencing high temperatures, edging towards 60 to 70 degrees. By now, everyone had realized that this was a global sudden heatwave. Meteorologists couldn't explain the reasons clearly. With no other option, the government issued policies urging people to move to cooler areas. Suddenly, the highways were packed with cars, and most people headed for the deep mountains, so we encountered many cars on the road. Despite our efforts to avoid them, we still came across several accidents. At this time, everyone was fleeing for their lives, and finding a place to repair our car was impossible. Fortunately, the engine was fine, so we continued driving back. Our old home was in a village at the foot of a mountain, but even there, the temperature had reached 50 degrees. My mom said she and Dad had moved up into the mountains, though it was still hot. The fruit trees provided some shade and cooler air. Seeing a notice of 30 miles left on my phone, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. We were almost back. That evening, we got in touch with our parents and arranged to be home by tomorrow morning. Dad sent us the location up in the mountains. My brother looked at the place and frowned. "It's 50 miles from here. We probably don't have enough gas. We can make it to the foot of the mountain at best, but definitely can't climb it." I looked at the location, then at the fuel gauge on the dashboard, and sighed. "Anyway, we have to make it. Let's take the back roads, save where we can." That was the only option now. On our way home, all the gas stations we passed were out of fuel. The gas we had bought earlier should have been enough, but taking the national roads made us go the long way, and now we were almost out. "All right, no point worrying. Even if we have to walk, we'll make it back. Get some sleep now. We'll continue in a bit." "Okay." My brother agreed and lay down in the back seat. I reclined my seat and also closed my eyes for a while. 2 hours later, taking advantage of the cooler weather, we headed towards the village. The road to the village was rough, and we bumped along until we were close to dawn when we arrived, but we were still 20 miles from our parents' place, and the fuel tank was nearly empty. We had to drive slowly, and 5 miles from our destination, we completely ran out of gas and were forced to stop on the roadside. It was only around 8 or 9 o'clock, but the sun was already too hot to bear. I checked my phone and gritted my teeth. Let's walk, take some water and food, and walk back. My brother wiped the sweat from his forehead, quickly grabbed a few bottles of water and some bread, and put them in his backpack. We locked the car and started walking. The road was a dirt path, difficult to navigate, and without any shade. Soon, I felt dizzy. I turned to look at my brother. His face was also red. No choice. We had to keep going. We hadn't walked even a mile when I could hardly see the road anymore. I quickly pulled my brother to find a rock to rest behind. Looking at the mountains so close yet so far, I felt utterly drained. "It's too hot. I don't know how long it will take. Let's call our parents and tell them we'll walk slowly." My brother quickly took out his phone, pressed a few buttons, then cursed. "Darn it, it's so hot the phone crashed. Sis, use yours." I reached into my bag for my phone. It felt burning hot, and when I pressed the button, it didn't respond. "It's crashed too. What now?" I took a deep breath and pointed at his backpack. "Try the Nokia." My brother hurriedly fished out the phone from his bag, fiddled with it for a while, and soon the familiar ringtone sounded, and an image of 2 clasped hands appeared on the screen. Excited, my brother, shaking, removed the SIM card and inserted it into the phone. After about 5 minutes, a weak signal appeared on the screen, and my brother quickly called our mom. After 2 or 3 tries, my mom finally picked up the phone. "Mom, help, my sister and I are at the foot of the mountain. Our car ran out of gas and we can't make it up. Is the tricycle at home? Can Dad come down to pick us up?" On the other end, my mom said hello, hello, hello a few times. then suddenly hung up. I grabbed the phone and tried calling back, but nobody answered. With no other choice, I sent several texts, praying that my mom would receive them. After that, I poured a bottle of water over my head to feel a bit more alert. The weather was getting hotter, even more so than just a moment ago. Worried it would get even hotter, I continued walking forward with my brother. After walking and stopping, we finally reached the foot of the mountain over an hour later. Before we could get there, we heard a putt-putt sound. My brother glanced over and shouted, "Dad, we're here." Seeing my dad arriving on the tricycle, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. 2 days after getting home, my brother and I fell ill one after another, and it took a week to recover. My mom looked worried sick. Thank goodness nothing serious happened. If you hadn't come back, your dad and I were about to go out looking for you. Yesterday, there was a bit of a signal. Now, it's chaos outside. A lot of people have fled to the mountains, but there's just not enough space for everyone. They say people are fighting over a few trees. Thankfully they can't get over here, or what would we have done? I nodded as she spoke. This part of the mountain was bought by my dad years ago. It's large, hard to climb, and well hidden. Plus, my dad is always wandering around here, and he had taken all necessary precautions long ago. It's an isolated mountain, cliffs on all sides except for the path we used to get up. As a child, I often came here with him. My brother was little then and used to joke that if he ever didn't want to go out, he'd just hide up here where no one could find him. It was a joke then, but now, it had become reality. My mom brought over a plate of fruit and handed me one. "Stella, try our fruit. It's really sweet. It's just that the weather's hot, so they look a bit wrinkled, but it doesn't affect the taste. This weather, I don't know when it will cool down. If it continues like this, we won't be able to stay even up here. I don't know how your aunt and uncle are doing. Your dad called them early to come over, but they haven't arrived. Stella, you eat first. I'll go cook." After my mom left the room, I followed her. Our current home is a bomb shelter we had dug out before, which is ventilated and cool. We had set up a basic electrical system before, which still works. Following my mom through twists and turns, we finally reached the kitchen. When I entered the kitchen, I was amazed. The kitchen was huge, easily over 100 square meters. Apart from the cooking area, the rest of the space was filled with baskets of vegetables and fruits. There were also barrels of water and instant foods. Honestly, it was like a small warehouse-style supermarket. Seeing the surprised look on my face, my mom laughed and said, "What's the matter?" Shocked, "All this was done by your dad. There are plenty of fruit trees on our mountain and they ripen quickly. We can't even sell all the produce, so your dad stored all the harvested fruits here. As for the water and other supplies, your dad brought them from town a while ago. He thought the weather was acting strange and afraid something might happen. He bought them just in case, and now they're proving to be useful. Your dad always thinks ahead," she added. I nodded in agreement. My dad had been in the military and always had a far-sighted approach to things. He thinks a lot and does a lot. If he hadn't urged me to come back home sooner, my brother and I might have ended up dead in the capital. I had seen in the news that due to the heat, the outer layers of many buildings in the capital were peeling off, and some buildings even collapsed. The capital was already in chaos. Thinking of this, I felt a wave of panic. I wondered how my colleagues at the company were doing. Because of the high temperatures, the network was very unstable. The signal was intermittent, and being in the mountains, it was almost like being cut off from the world. I had no idea when this bizarre heat wave would end. Today is August 15th. The hot weather has been ongoing for over 2 months due to the signal disruption. We have no idea about the situation outside. Fortunately, the high temperatures haven't reached our mountaintop. My mom cooked a chicken and took me into the woods to forage for mushrooms. There's a water source on the mountain, so it's not dry here, and we have all the wild resources we need as we picked mushrooms. My mom explained the types of mushrooms we found. Before long, we had gathered a basket full of mushrooms. On the way back, we discovered a Sichuan pepper tree. My mom was so happy, she couldn't stop smiling. She said that once it grows a bit more, we could harvest and grind it into Sichuan pepper powder. Watching her excitement, I suddenly understood the meaning of the saying, "Rely on the mountain if it's near, rely on the sea if it's by," unless something unexpected happens. The supplies we have stored on the mountain, along with what the mountain provides, could comfortably sustain us for a year or two. After returning home, my mom laid the mushrooms out to dry and cooked several dishes. In the evening, my dad moved the table outside and lit some candles. Under the dim candlelight, our family peacefully celebrated this year's Mid-Autumn Festival on the mountain. In the following days, my dad and brother went down the mountain daily to check on things, while my mom and I stayed on the mountain. Probably because our mountaintop is so remote, no one has come looking for us. In 2 months, it might be that the roads are too difficult to navigate, or perhaps, no one could make it up here alive. In the 3rd month after the heat wave, a change finally came. It started to rain. At first, it was a fine, dense drizzle. We hurriedly moved everything outside into the air raid shelter. The rain grew heavier and heavier. My dad had to brave the rain to move the few chickens and ducks we were raising into the air raid shelter, along with some ripe vegetables we hurriedly harvested. The rain suddenly turned into a torrential downpour. My brother was excited by the rain. Thank goodness, it's finally raining. If it had stayed hot like that, how could we have survived? Let it rain more, more. My mom slapped him lightly, ranting, "It'll be fine once the rain eases up. If it keeps pouring like this, we might face flash floods. But rain brings hope, right?" I watched the rain outside and began to worry. The sudden heat wave followed by a torrential downpour could lead to severe flooding, which would be a real problem. Not to mention the flooding, the prolonged heat has likely killed many animals. Decomposing animal bodies would inevitably lead to viruses. Combined with the humid weather, an outbreak of infectious diseases would be unavoidable. If things improve and the diseases are controlled, that's one thing, but if the temperatures soar again, it would be catastrophic. I watched the rain, praying it would alleviate the heat, ideally driving it away. Unfortunately, things didn't go as hoped. The rain lasted a solid half-month. It barely stopped during that time. The makeshift structures outside the air raid shelter were washed away early on, and many trees were also destroyed. Luckily, there were no mudslides. Besides the entrance getting flooded, the rest of the air raid shelter remained unaffected. Finally, in the evening, the rain stopped. My dad stepped out into the mud to check the surroundings. Half an hour later, he trudged back through the mud. My mom quickly pulled him into the shelter. As he took off his shoes, he said, "Many fruit trees have snapped, and the rain shelters are gone too. The place is covered in mud. We better stay inside for the next couple of days. A mudslide now would be disastrous." Hearing this, my mom patted her chest. "It's that bad? Huh, oh dear, we better not go out then. We have enough supplies, so there's no need to go out. Finn, grab the shovel and clear the entrance so we can get some air." My brother hurried over with the tools and shoveled the mud and water away from the entrance, then swept the floor clean with a broom. For the next 2 days, our family stayed in the air raid shelter, occasionally sitting at the entrance to check outside. The recent storms had blown away the metal shed at the entrance, leaving only a few poles. The weather heated up again over these days, and the air was filled with an unpleasant odor. Worried about germs, my mom scattered disinfectant at the entrance daily, and we spread quite a bit outside the shelter too. With the communication signals down, we had no idea about the situation outside. The electricity in the shelter was long gone, and we had to rely on candles for light. With nothing else to do, I spent my days reading books at the entrance to pass the time. Fortunately, the temperature didn't soar as it had before. I guess it's around 30 degrees outside now. If the temperature doesn't rise further, this heat wave might just pass. A few days later, the weather stabilized, reaching just over 30 degrees during the day and even cooling down in the evenings and mornings. Judging by the time, it must be autumn by now. Seeing that the weather wasn't hot, our family started to emerge from the shelter to clean up the aftermath of the recent heavy rains. Many fruit trees on the mountain had broken, which greatly upset my mom. She instructed my dad to prop up the trees and bury them again. All the wild game on the mountain has disappeared. Before the heat wave, you could still spot wild rabbits, but now they've vanished without a trace. It's such a tragedy. All the wildlife on the mountain is gone. I wonder if the weather will ever change, and when this mountain will return to how it used to be. My mom lamented as she sprayed disinfectant around, looking at the trees nearly buried in mud. I sighed deeply. It's true, isn't it? In recent years, the trees on the mountain have suffered severe damage. Our area was spared because it's least preventing tree felling, but it's a different story elsewhere. Severe logging and excessive hunting have left those mountains devoid of wildlife for a long time. I wonder how people on other mountains are faring. I hope they are safe. After the extreme heat subsided, my brother wanted to go down the mountain to check things out, but the previous storm had destroyed many trees. Despite our efforts to salvage what we could, the paths remained blocked. We had no choice but to stay on the mountain. Isolated from the outside world for nearly half a year, even the pleasant mountain life was becoming unbearable. My brother started fiddling with the old Nokia phone. That Nokia hadn't been used since we got home. We weren't even sure if it still had battery life or could be turned on. After several days of tinkering at the cave entrance, my brother finally made some progress. "Sis, look, it still has battery. I wonder if it gets any signal. Hey, doesn't this phone have a radio feature? Let's see if it can pick up any signals," muttering to himself. My brother went outside. For the next few days, he ran around with the phone trying to catch a signal, but to no avail. Finally, a week later, as he sat at the door and turned on the phone again, a crackling electric sound followed by intermittent voices came through. My parents and I quickly gathered around. Nationwide, high temperatures, contagious, protection. After listening over a dozen times, we finally understood the current situation. The extreme heat across the country had passed, but an infectious disease was now rampant. The government was advising everyone to stay put, take precautions, and avoid infection. Additionally, there was news that the government had resumed daily operations and would periodically drop supplies, urging everyone to watch for helicopters. Hearing this, my brother couldn't contain his excitement. "That's great. We'll have food. No more dry flatbreads for us." My mom gave him a stern look. We had stockpiled supplies at home, but after 6 months Everything that could be stored had dried up. Fearing another emergency, my mom began rationing our daily consumption these days. Our water supply had dwindled, and our meals consisted of flatbreads with water. As long as we weren't starving, it was bearable. My dad, rejuvenated by the news, started clearing the trees on the mountain, and regardless, clearing a path down the mountain was the priority. My mom and I wandered around the mountain, hoping to find something edible. Help from the government would arrive, but until then, we had to struggle to survive. It took nearly a month to clear the path down the mountain. During that month, the weather returned to normal, bringing the coolness of late autumn. It rained a few times, but each was brief and didn't cause much disruption. By early November, the path down the mountain was finally clear, and my dad started making trips with his tricycle to other places. After a few trips, he looked somewhat relieved. He had found other survivors on different mountains, and also sent them some food. After that, he often went down the mountain and always managed to find a few people each time. Finally, the national supplies arrived just before the onset of winter. At first, we heard the sound of helicopters, watched for a long time, and eventually saw something falling down. My mom and I hurried over and eventually found a box under a tree. The box wasn't big, but it was packed with everything, including food, drinks, and some medicine we carried the supplies back home. That night, we finally tasted something other than flatbreads for the first time in 6 months, compressed biscuits and sausages. After that, the airdrop supplies arrived sporadically, and we kept some for ourselves and sent the rest to other places. Apart from the survivors my dad found, we also discovered a large family in the village. It was a big household of more than 10 families who had hidden in an underground cellar during the high temperatures, surviving on stored supplies for 6 months. Fortunately, the national supplies arrived just in time, otherwise, people would have starved. After the high temperature subsided, my mom thought about going back home, but my dad stopped her. He said winter was coming soon and the village had no water or electricity. If anything happened, there would be nowhere to hide. After thinking it over, my mom agreed. Afterward, my mom and I began to prepare for winter. After the heat wave, my parents planted vegetables in the garden on the mountain, and the vegetables grew well over the months due to the good weather. The most abundant crop my mom grew was bok choy. Bok choy is easy to grow and has a short growth cycle. One harvest finishes and another can be started in just a few months. The amount of vegetables stored was considerable. Apart from the stored ones, there were also dried ones, which were easier to store and great for making soup in the winter. Today, taking advantage of the snow-free weather, our family started digging up sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes are high-yielding and store well, enough to last through the winter. In the end, we harvested several baskets of sweet potatoes, taking advantage of the good weather. My dad also took a few baskets down to the people at the foot of the mountain. No matter what, we had to get through this winter first. The mountain is cold, and this year the snow came unusually early. By mid-December, it had already started snowing on the mountain. It began with light snow, but soon turned into a blizzard. The entrance to the air raid shelter was covered by heavy snow, and it took my dad a long time to clear the entrance. The snow he cleared was shoveled by my mom into the shelter, used for daily washing and cleaning. The chickens and ducks we had previously raised had hatched eggs, and after the older ones died, my mom skinned them, processed the innards, and stuffed them directly into the snow pile at the entrance. Without a fridge, this snow pile became the best refrigerator. The snow this year paused occasionally but never completely stopped. By the time it was nearly Chinese New Year, the snow at the entrance had accumulated too much to clear. My dad simply gave up on managing it, letting it pile up. On New Year's Eve, my mom indulged a bit, stewing a whole chicken and roasting a duck along with the previously stored vegetables. We celebrated our first spring festival after the apocalypse. Because we couldn't go out, we couldn't receive any news from outside, we can only live our lives counting the days on the calendar. After the start of spring, the snow at the door began to melt, and my father once again took up the shovel to clear it away. After 5 days, a hole appeared at the entrance, letting in a rush of cold air. I shivered with cold and added another layer of clothing. Faint light filtered through, and I finally saw the bright light I hadn't seen for a long time. It's strange to say, but although the snow had sealed the door, the air raid shelter inside remained clear. You have to admit, the construction from decades ago really was unique. Several days later, a path wide enough for a person to pass through appeared at the entrance. I followed my dad outside and finally saw the condition of the outside world. The entire mountain was covered in snow, a vast expanse of white, with hardly anything else visible. My father sighed as he looked down the mountain. It will take at least a month to get down the mountain. We don't even know what the situation is like down there. I echoed his sentiment. Yes, it's been months. We have no idea what it's like elsewhere. We can only hope everything is all right. While we were still reflecting on this, we heard my mother calling us to eat, and without further ado, we went back into the shelter. A month later, the snow on the mountain began to melt. The long-missed sun finally came out. Taking advantage of this, our family started shoveling the snow on the mountain. Last year's snowfall was so heavy that stepping into it would reach waist high. so we had to tie ourselves with ropes to the trees and carefully make our way down. Half a month later, a path down the mountain was finally cleared, and signs of melting appeared in the snow on the mountain. My father reached the bottom of the mountain, dusted off his old tricycle, fueled it up, and chugged along to other places. As the weather warmed, the trees on the mountain sprouted new branches. I looked at the fresh young leaves and began to pray for normal weather this year. The few households in the village that had survived began to emerge and became active. Searching for food and for other people became everyone's daily routine. There were still some sweet potatoes left from last year. My mother distributed some to the villagers and started getting involved in village activities herself. After the sun came out, the snow melted quickly. We searched the entire village and found that there were fewer than 10 households that had survived. My mother's spirits fell, and she murmured, "So few of us are left. Before, every house had people, every house. Stella, why do you think it got so hot? It was fine. How could it get so hot? So many people died from the heat. I've never heard of such a thing before." As she spoke, she began to choke up, and I patted her back, my eyes reddening as well. Indeed, who could have predicted such sudden high temperatures? It was almost like the end of the world. Could such conditions occur again this year, if it gets that hot again? What will we do? Can we survive? I don't know. Fortunately, as summer approached, the weather remained as it had been before, never exceeding 28 degrees. To prevent a recurrence of the previous high temperatures, my mother and a few other women in the village planted a lot of vegetables on the open land. My father and brother searched for water sources around the village. They wanted to dig a well so that, at the very least, we would have water to drink. Another month passed, and the vegetables my mother and the others had planted thrived, and a new well was added to the village. The water was sweet and refreshing. Those of us who had survived cleared the debris of collapsed houses in the village. Construction of new houses has begun. The National Rescue Team finally arrived. They reconnected the electrical lines in the village and took a census of the survivors. When the enumerator, an older man, learned that out of nearly 100 households, only 8 survived, he broke down in tears. He recorded the numbers, constantly encouraging us to keep living well, mentioning that the country was gradually resuming production and that supplies would soon be distributed. Before they left, my father gave them his tricycle. The roads were still impassable, making travel inconvenient, but the sturdy tricycle saved a lot of time. The old man thanked us repeatedly and, somewhat awkwardly, drove the tricycle away. After that, my father found a few bicycles in the village, fixed them up, and began riding around the village. A month later, halfway through the year, our village finally got electricity. Then came the internet. A year later, we finally learned about the situation outside, but the cost was too high. The government statistics showed that less than 1/10 of the population survived the extreme heat apocalypse. Now, there are fewer than 100 million people still alive. Before the apocalypse, our country had a population of over 1 billion. A single heatwave took away 1 billion lives. This number is overwhelmingly sad. For a time, the internet was filled with sorrow. After the grief, people began to recover, joining hands to rebuild their homes. Although we didn't know if this year's heatwave would come again, life had to go on. Government subsidies came quickly, and the people in our village began to rebuild the buildings. The few surviving families lived close together, and the village paths were gradually cleared. 2 months of anxiety passed without last year's heat returning. Even the capital's temperature stayed around 35 degrees Celsius, far from last year's extreme highs of 70 to 80 degrees. It wasn't until autumn that scientists announced the end of the extreme heat crisis. Our lives finally returned to normal. However, scientists could not explain the cause of the previous abnormal high temperatures. After all, that apocalyptic heat wave was fast, lasted long, and was so sudden that many people didn't even have time to react before they were engulfed by it. Some boldly speculated that it was the Earth issuing a warning. Years of environmental destruction had taken their toll. Global warming, rising temperatures at the poles year-round, deforestation, and littering, among other things, could all have caused this extreme heat. This bizarre heatwave could have been the Earth activating its self-protection mechanism. The drastic reduction in the global population was perhaps the greatest retaliation. Many shudder at the memory of that heatwave. Since then, global development has been stagnant. Perhaps, as speculated, it really was a warning, but who can say for sure? In any case, since then, people around me have become much more conscious. The trees on the mountain grow lusher with each passing year, and the village, once surrounded by greenery, has returned to its former verdant glory.